After dying from exhaustion due to lack of sleep, I was reincarnated as a dragon. Furthermore, I became a black dragon, the most malevolent among the five-colored dragons. I was born at the very pinnacle of the food chain. Not only do I have a powerful black dragon mother, but I am also accompanied by two rebellious dragon sisters. They are rather easy to bully. At this moment, having just broken through my eggshell, I was nearly sent to my grave by the massive head looming before me. Looking at my own body covered in tender pitch-black scales, the name Cultivation Manhua instinctively surfaced in my mind. This is my true dragon name. The black dragon mother stared at the hatchling that had just emerged before her. Upon hearing it call out its true dragon name, she felt a sense of reassurance. It seemed this hatchling was not like those pathetic, weak-willed dragon beasts. If that were the case, she would consider it a sensible child. Tiamat, the great mother of the five-colored dragons, had issued her commands. Without delay, she used her dragon claw to drag over a carcass. I could not identify the creature, but the remains were marred by traces of acid corrosion. Black dragons differ from the other five-colored dragons in their preferences. They do not favor fresh meat. It appeared this was the first meal the black dragon mother had prepared for her offspring. After a moment of contemplation, I began to consume the eggshell fragments scattered on the ground. It tastes like crispy chicken, I thought, finding a strange sense of satisfaction. Once I survive into adulthood, I shall seek out princesses from fallen kingdoms. According to my ancestral memories, the elves of this world are quite exquisite. I shall seize a few elves or creatures of similar stature. In any case, the 1,000-year lifespan of the dragon race will be more than enough for me to indulge. As I ate, I was surprised to see several lines of text manifest before my eyes. 50 feast talent activated. Feast stacks 0, progress 3%. What in the world is this? After carefully sensing the phenomenon, I finally realized that I seemed to possess a fragment of an ancient insect's talent. I am capable of stacking the feast effect. Having finished the eggshells, I was suddenly struck by an insatiable hunger, my eyes turning blood red as I gazed at the rotting carcass to the side. Since I have already become a dragon, what else is there to fear? I lunged forward and began to feed. To my surprise, the flavor was actually quite acceptable. Seeing her son eating, the black dragon mother ceased her scrutiny and slowly retreated into the depths of the cavern. That was where her hoard of treasures lay. As I continued to devour the meat, the progress bar steadily began to unlock. Upon consuming 100%, I felt my body shudder violently before I was suddenly thrust into a void of absolute darkness. With my own eyes, I witnessed my form growing robust and massive. At this moment, I felt no hunger. I let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, there is a cooldown period. Otherwise, being forced to endure hunger for a lifetime would be insufferable. I ventured deeper into the cavern. There, I discovered a mountain of treasures alongside various armors and magical staves. These must have been left behind by some reckless adventurers who lacked the sense to cherish their lives. As for the black dragon lady, she lay slumbering atop the hoard. I could sense an aroma radiating from those treasures that was entirely distinct from that of the black dragon lady. It all emanated from the wealth piled high. Among it all, the most fragrant item was a colossal axe resting in the distance. Just then, the black dragon lady opened her eyes, fixing a frigid gaze upon me. 2 jets of air billowed from her nostrils. I slowly retreated. I understood that the black dragon lady was issuing a warning. To an evil dragon, their treasure is akin to a second life. After all, nurturing offspring is merely a biological duty of reproduction. The mother of 5-colored dragons may have brought them into this world, but the treasure remains her sole possession. The following day, I discovered that the remaining 2 dragon eggs were slowly hatching, each in turn proclaiming its true draconic name, announcing its arrival to this world. Ngaimila Deli Tu Then Lang Hoa. I glanced at the 2 young female dragons, finding them even more fragrant, and after checking on the dragon lady still sleeping in the cave, I immediately approached my younger siblings. The 2 hatchlings were busy consuming their eggshells and paid no mind to my approach. I extended my dragon claw and, without the slightest hesitation, snatched a portion of their shell fragments away. I needed to prepare for the feast to come, though a youthful roar emerged. Evil dragons possess no concept of profound brotherly love, and Gaimele looked at the eldest brother before her with intense resentment. This fellow actually dared to rob her. I casually pressed Ngaimile's head into the dirt, forcing her to gnaw on the earth, while I casually stuffed the largest piece of shell into my mouth. Be good. Let your eldest brother have a taste. I used the draconic tongue to offer comfort. Ngaimile attempted to resist, but despite exerting all her strength, she could not lift her head from beneath my dragon claw. Her hind legs kicked incessantly against the ground. Furiously, she declared, "You detestable creature." To treat the future great black dragon queen in such a manner. Yet, able only to fill her mouth with dirt, she remained perplexed. Yet for a brother born only a day earlier, why is the disparity between us so immense? Hannah, watching the scene unfold, hastily gathered her own eggshells into a pile and began to devour them frantically. Realizing this was not ideal, I released my dragon claw from atop a melee, grabbed Hannah by the scruff of her neck, and pushed her aside. I then selected the largest piece of shell among the remnants. After all, fairness must be maintained between 2 younger sisters. Having learned from the previous encounter, Hannah offered no futile resistance, allowing me to take the shell and walk away. I placed the eggshell and the carcass of the magical beast together, then lay down beside them, quietly waiting for the feast to begin. During this interval, I began to slowly organize the massive inherited memories of the dragon race. In truth, I had no intention of bullying my 2 sisters just now. I must ensure the status of the eldest brother. Only then will I be able to secure an advantage when the Black Dragon Mother brings us food in the future. Everything is done for the sake of this banquet. The two dragon sisters quickly finished their eggshells and began to stare at the distant magical beast carcass, drooling with hunger. In the end, Amelie could no longer suppress her instincts. She approached the carcass of the magical beast, while Hannah remained focused on watching me. She watched as her sister, Amelie, lunged forward like a puppy and began tearing into the flesh, only to be snatched up by the scruff of her neck and tossed aside by me. This is what Mother prepared for all of us. I cannot claim it all for myself. Amelie bared her teeth and claws, glaring at me with intensity. Meanwhile, Hannah looked at me pitifully, hoping to receive a portion. Do I truly believe Mother would concern herself with such trivial matters? I paid no heed to Amelie's threats. Upon hearing this, Amelie fell silent. The bonds of kin among the chromatic dragons have always been thin. Matters such as these are usually of no concern to the Black Dragon Mother. I began to feel that I might have been a bit excessive. Thus I stepped forward, tore off 2 pieces of meat, and tossed them to my 2 younger dragon sisters. Consider this in exchange for the eggshells. If it is not enough, go and eat the dirt. The resilient stomachs of dragonkin are capable of digesting soil. Although still somewhat indignant, the 2 young dragons had no choice but to accept their fate. How hateful. When we grow up, we will surely teach Xiaolong a lesson. It was as if this very meat were a part of me, while Hannah gazed toward her brother as she ate. One day later, I finally felt that familiar pang of hunger return. I rushed toward the carcass of the magical beast and began to devour it. I even helped myself to the eggshells of my sisters as a garnish. The progress of my gluttony evolution was gradually increasing. Even after consuming the entirety of the beast's flesh, my progress remained stuck at level 9. I felt an even greater hunger gnawing at me. As I turned to look at the 2 young dragons, Amelie and Hannah instinctively pulled back, emitting low, defensive growls. I struggled to suppress my instincts, desperately ignoring the fragrant scent emanating from them. Focusing my attention instead on the beast's remains, I began to gather the cartilage and ribs to swallow them whole. How could a sand dragon's teeth be this formidable? After all, these were the bones of a great horned magical beast. Hannah watched my method of consumption with utter astonishment. A hatchling dragon would certainly be unable to crush bones of this density. One might be able to digest them given enough time, but without the ability to bite through them, they could not be swallowed. Yet I found devouring the bones to be an effortless task. Finally, the progress of my evolution reached 100%. Finding a secluded spot within the cave, I hid myself from the gaze of the Black Dragon Mother and the other hatchlings before lying down. Within the pitch-black darkness, my hide grew increasingly resilient. My claws and fangs became sharper and my limbs grew thick and powerful. The brief process of transformation concluded. I opened my eyes to survey my form. My size had increased to nearly 4 meters and the density of my bones and muscles had grown significantly. I slowly made my way toward my 2 younger sisters. Amelie and Hannah were currently clutching the beast's leg bone, lying prone on the ground as they licked it incessantly. I looked at the foolish demeanor of my sisters and shook my head. It was impossible to say who was to blame for such simple-mindedness. Amelie immediately took notice of me and began to scrutinize my form. Could this truly be a black dragon born only days ago? Even the hatchlings of a red dragon would not be this robust, would they? I lowered my head and snatched the bone that Hannah had been clutching. Hannah instinctively released the bone. You hateful sand dragon. You won't even leave the bones for us? Amelie erupted in immediate anger. I paid her no heed. With a powerful bite, the bone immediately shattered into several pieces. I extracted the marrow from within. This is your reward, I said to Hannah. Afterward, I headed toward the remaining bones scattered in the distance. Although the sumptuous feast was growing cold, I remained a true dragon in the midst of development. Even if it did not compare to a grand banquet, an ant, no matter how small, is still meat. Hannah stared blankly at my retreating back, then looked down at the bone that had been broken open beside her. Feeling that this older brother of hers was perhaps not so bad after all, she began to bow her head and consume the marrow, eating the bone fragments scattered on the ground. Amelie looked at the marrow near Hannah, then glanced at the bone held within her own dragon claws. She was instantly incensed and approached Hannah, swallowing hard as she stifled a gulp of saliva. Hannah, you haven't been bought off by him with mere scraps of bone, have you? Don't forget that we are on the same side. However, the marrow is truly delicious. Hannah spoke while continuing to eat. You are truly infuriating. Amelie felt as though she were about to explode. Hannah looked at Amelie and shoved a piece of bone containing marrow into her mouth. Amelie did not even have time to chew before swallowing it whole. It was exquisite. Meanwhile, I was still processing the rest of the bones. My gaze drifted toward the depths of the cave. Had the Black Dragon Mother not emerged yet? In truth, whether she emerged or not was of little consequence. The crux of the matter was that this meal was finished. As a dragon mother, she should have ventured out to hunt by now. Yet even after I had finished crunching through every magical beast bone, the Black Dragon Mother had still not appeared. I began to sense that something was amiss, though I dared not venture into the darkness to seek her out myself. After a moment of contemplation, I looked toward the 2 young dragons. What kind of prey do you think Mother will bring back this time? Will it be a ferocious creature or a magical beast? I licked my lips. Likely a magical beast, I suppose. After all, Mother is a fully matured black dragon. Hannah pondered for a moment before saying, Stop guessing, it is certainly going to be a formidable magical beast. Upon hearing this, Amelie became visibly excited, yet it seemed as though Mother had no intention of venturing out to hunt. Hannah spoke timorously. Mother may have forgotten to go out and hunt. I remembered seeing her previously lying prone atop her mountain of treasure. I spoke calmly, a mountain of treasure. The eyes of Emily and Hannah seemed to shimmer with a golden light. They did not yet possess a hoard of their own. To be a true dragon without a treasure hoard is in truth a form of torment. However, being able to behold the treasures of another is also quite agreeable. Observing their hooked expressions, I shook my head inwardly. True dragons possess absolutely no resistance toward treasures. Even if I myself desired a vast amount of wealth, it is merely the mindset of my previous human life that prevents me from placing too much importance on such things, though I will certainly need to accumulate treasures in the future, as the progression of Jingyan requires such resources. Emily and Hannah stumbled toward the depths of the cave, while I lay down where I stood, carefully monitoring the movements within. Not even a few minutes had passed when, accompanied by an enraged dragon roar, a small black dragon flew straight out and crashed heavily onto the ground. It was none other than Emily. Some of the scales on her body had shattered, and shortly after, a panic-stricken Hannah rushed out as well. What had occurred? I was somewhat bewildered. I had only intended to ask for a meal, so how did it escalate to this? By my calculations, the black mother dragon was merely being lethargic and unwilling to hunt. She should not have gone so far as to strike her own offspring. It was evident that Emily's injuries were not severe. It appeared the black mother dragon had still held back her strength. Emily groaned as she stood up, looking pitiful, and sought a corner to lie down in. We could not wake Mother up. Emily had assumed her mother was in a deep slumber and intended to steal a single gold coin. Hannah stammered. I looked at Emily, somewhat at a loss for words. Dragons are truly obsessive regarding their treasures. This was not even mentioning that the black mother dragon was currently present. Even if she were absent, had Emily surreptitiously taken a single gold coin, the black mother dragon would have discovered it the moment she returned. A dragon's memory concerning their hoard is truly profound. They know precisely which coin resides in which location. For throughout the incredibly long lifespan of a dragon, apart from sleeping, the act they perform. Who gave this creature the audacity to stand at the feet of a full-grown dragon? To dare to steal, even if it were only a single gold coin, from a true dragon is an act of supreme insolence. I let out a sigh. It appears that I must take matters into my own hands if I wish to secure my own survival. From the bone-corroding waters of the swamp, the head of a black dragon emerged. This is the first time I have ever ventured outside the dragon's lair. The black dragon mother's lair is situated within an expansive, desolate swamp. Her den resembles the lodges of beavers from my previous life. To exit, one must necessarily submerge into the water. However, black dragons are born masters of the water, capable of breathing beneath the surface with ease. I made my way out of the lair without the slightest difficulty. Looking into the distance, the landscape is shrouded in thick, poisonous miasma. An ordinary person would find it impossible to survive in such an environment. Yet, not far from the shore, there lies a forest. I suspect there will be prey to be found there, will there not? The area surrounding the black dragon mother's lair is permeated with dragon's might, keeping both common beasts and magical creatures at bay. Therefore, if I wish to feast, I must venture a fair distance from the lair. I am well aware of the risks to my own safety, but this hunt is the foundation upon which I shall rise in this world. I have no intention of one day becoming a trophy for those who call themselves dragon slayers. I slowly swam to the bank, shook my wings to shed the mud and water, retracted my dragon's might, and silently attuned myself to my surroundings. At present, my body is still far too small, and the magical power within me is insufficient to sustain flight. Furthermore, even if I were capable of flight, I would not choose to do so. After all, there are many predatory magical beasts that haunt the skies, and my mud-stained black scales blend seamlessly with the terrain. My presence merges perfectly with the landscape. The sensory perception of a dragon is truly incredibly acute. Moreover, I possess a life force of significant value. This grants me a sensory capability that far exceeds that of other dragons of my age. In the distance, there seems to be a commotion, accompanied by the metallic scent of blood. Like a seasoned hunter, I moved silently, creeping deep into the forest. In the heart of the dense woods, 5 terror wolves were tearing into the carcass of a great horned deer. I hid behind a thicket, observing the scene before me. Terror wolves are ferocious predators, though they do not yet qualify as magical beasts. Because they lack magical power, they are often overlooked, yet the wolves before me are far from ordinary. Each of these 5 terror wolves is larger than the calves I remember from my previous life. Nevertheless, my own size is superior to any one of them. The terror wolves use their razor-sharp fangs, relentlessly tearing the prey apart. I weighed the combat prowess of both sides. It felt as though victory was within reach. With that realization, I began to approach the terror wolves slowly. Even while feeding, these terror wolves possessed the keen instincts of wild beasts. I set my gaze upon one of them, noting the difference compared to the others. It was a terror wolf nearly twice the size of its kin. It seemed this creature was the leader of this small pack. At that moment, it was feasting upon a great elk, savoring the freshest of the internal organs. Just as the pack leader plunged its head into the carcass of the great elk, I struck. The wolf reacted with blinding speed, but I was faster, sinking my jaws directly into its throat. With my razor-sharp fangs, I instantly severed the creature's windpipe. As I tore through its throat, the beast managed only a single guttural groan before collapsing. The 4 remaining terror wolves, including the leader, were momentarily stunned by my ambush. The pack leader did not attack immediately. It bared its fangs at me, emitting a low continuous growl. As a leader, it was carefully evaluating the combat strength between us. Its intellect was naturally far superior to that of the ordinary wolves. Observing my pitch-black dragon's scales and wings, the leader realized the creature before it was a black dragon, not an adult but a whelp, or perhaps merely a dragon hatchling. Once it had determined the disparity between our powers, the terrifying leader let out a command. With a growl, the other 3 wolves moved to surround me. Even now, I remained gripping the carcass of the fallen wolf in my jaws. The warm blood of the beast flowed into my gullet. A surge of intense exhilaration washed over me. This sensation of the hunt was magnificent. I felt something deep within my body begin to awaken. I stared at the 4 wolves surrounding me, viewing me as their prey without a hint of fear. I released the carcass from my grip. My front talons pressed firmly upon the corpse. I unfurled my wings and released a thunderous dragon's roar. Following the leader's command, the 3 wolves lunged forward. I did not falter, meeting them head-on. I collided with one of the wolves in a brutal clash. The wolf was instantly sent flying by the force of my impact. I faintly heard the sound of the dire wolf's bones snapping. 2 other dire wolves seized the opportunity to lunge at its throat and one of its wings. I held the dire wolf biting at my neck in a vice-like grip. My sharp talons pierced directly into its body. My fangs sank deep into its spine. With a loud snap, the dire wolf's spine was severed. However, one of my wings was also caught by another dire wolf. The scales on my wing were not enough to stop the attack. The wolf's teeth bit straight through. At that moment, the alpha dire wolf seized its chance to charge, its jaws aimed directly at my throat. I raised my head with a cold glare. "I had been waiting for you." A conical jet of acidic fluid erupted from my maw, engulfing the alpha wolf's entire face. Smoke rose from the alpha's fur, a clear sign of the acid's corrosive effect. Still, some of the acidic fluid had seeped directly into its eyes. Blinding it instantly, it could only roll on the ground in agony. After spitting the acid, I quickly pinned the wolf that had bitten my wing to the ground. With one bite, I severed its throat, and a stream of cooling energy surged through my body. My wing, which had just been pierced, began to slowly mend. I knew then that the innate ability of the apex predator was taking effect. I rose to finish off the wolf with the broken spine, then ended the alpha's suffering as well. The first wolf, which had been sent flying earlier, also died in agony from its shattered bones. As the cooling energy within my body continued to grow, the wound on my wing healed rapidly, until it looked no different than it had before. I gazed at the spoils of my battle, a surge of excitement rising within me. Although these were merely low-level dire wolves among the predatory species, the fact that I could dispatch them with barely a scratch while still a dragon whelp was an impressive feat. If it had been Hannah or Amy, a few of these dire wolves could have easily torn them to pieces. The alpha dire wolf was highly intelligent. It had sent the other dire wolves to test me first. While it waited for the perfect... However, the acidic solution accumulating in my mouth was precisely what was meant for it. The only thing that frustrated me was that among the 5-colored dragons, only the red dragon possessed the ability to breathe fire. The black dragon, conversely, was capable only of spitting acid. The black dragon lacked the biological organ required to produce flame. I immediately began to devour the carcass of the dire wolf. I tore open the abdomen of the dire wolf to consume the liver within. Without the flesh of a magical beast, the nourishment was ultimately lacking. It was a pity that Sheng Yan had not yet finished recovering his strength. However, by my estimation, these 5 dire wolves combined with the carcass of that great elk were insufficient for him to complete the 3rd stage of his feast. The energy contained within the flesh of a magical beast is far more potent than the meat of these non-magical dire wolves. At that moment, a panther exceeding 3 meters in length emerged from the shadows. It let out a low growl in my direction. This was no common leopard from Earth. Its size surpassed even the tigers of my previous life. Its muscles were far more formidable as well. The panther stared hungrily at the corpses scattered across the ground. I raised my head to cast a single glance at it before continuing to consume the dire wolf carcass. It was merely a savage beast looking for an easy meal. I did not yet consider it worthy of my attention. Seeing my lack of reaction, the panther grew bolder. It lowered its body and crept toward one of the dire wolf corpses, intending to drag it away. Observing this, I ceased my meal and moved toward the panther. Seeing this, the panther quickly abandoned the dire wolf carcass and fled. Even if it had encountered the 5 dire wolves itself, it would have been forced to retreat. Furthermore, being a solitary predator, suffering an injury would likely mean its death. I did not consume all the dire wolf corpses, only 2 of them, consuming them down to the bone. Ever since my teeth had evolved, I found that at times, the bones were even more succulent than the meat. The remaining carcasses, including that of the great elk, were hidden within the swamp. After wandering for a time to familiarize myself with the surrounding terrain, I returned fully satiated toward the dragon's lair. Hannah and Emily looked despondent. Emily was still licking her wounds, occasionally casting a gaze toward the depths of the cave. The 2 young dragons took little notice of their elder brother's return. It appeared Mother Black Dragon had not gone hunting, and I had intended to consume more high-level magical beast flesh. I paid no mind to the 2 younger dragons. Whether or not they chose to eat was of no concern to me. As I passed by Hannah, she sniffed the air, detecting the scent of blood lingering on her elder brother's body. She believed I must have gone hunting on my own. Upon this realization, Hannah immediately regained her composure. She crawled excitedly to my side. "So long, did you go hunting?" Hannah asked. "So what if I did?" I glanced at her with faint indifference. Hannah had intended to ask for a share of the spoils, but she struggled to find the right words. So long, actually, when you went out yesterday, I secretly followed you. Hannah hesitated for a moment before continuing, I cannot believe I actually dared to venture out. I looked at Hannah in astonishment. I myself am a bold and cautious creature. Only after my body was reinforced by 2 feasts did I dare to step slightly beyond the cave. How could she, with her fragile constitution, dare to do the same when a single terror wolf could have claimed her life? She claimed to have discovered a promising location teeming with prey and wanted to establish a temporary lair there with me. She understood that remaining here offered no future. While we are young, we still require our mother's protection. Though it is said that true dragons can sustain themselves on Earth, who would choose to eat dirt when there is meat available? I have no interest in such prey right now, I said, casting a dismissive look toward Hannah. You don't even want to eat magical beasts? Hannah asked, somewhat startled. Magical beasts? What kind of magical beasts? And furthermore, you actually dared to go out on your own? My interest was immediately piqued. After all, the Black Dragon matriarch must have resided here for a very long time. So much so that there are no magical beasts left in the vicinity. Most of them have likely been devoured by her. I originally intended to accompany you, but I soon lost your trail. Eventually, I discovered a fisher-cracking bear. Hannah stammered. How bold to think she dared to tail me. Seeing that my expression appeared somewhat unsettled, Hannah hurriedly added, in truth, after you left the lair, I was unable to keep up with your tracks. I nodded. A mature fisher-cracking bear, that would be a 5th-rank magical beast, would it not? How could dragon hatchlings like us hope to contend with such a creature? According to the records in my ancestral memory, this fisher-cracking bear is no ordinary beast. A mature beast of the 5th rank is a creature that only adolescent dragons could hope to hunt head-on. That earth-shattering bear must have been injured. I saw it bleeding profusely, and furthermore it likely has not yet reached the 5th rank. Hannah recoiled slightly. After considering it for a moment, I realized my meal was nearly finished, which meant it was time to prepare for the next feast. In that case, it is worth going to investigate this earth-shattering bear. Let us go. I stood up and flapped my wings. Hannah followed happily, while Amelie, lying nearby with her eyelids drooping, glanced at the two of us without saying a word. 2 dragon whelps thinking of hunting magical beasts. They should be grateful if they are not eaten by one themselves. In a forest on the outskirts of the corrosive swamp, Hannah and I walked in silence. Are you certain the earth-shattering bear is here? We had traveled for half a day, and aside from trees, there was nothing but trees, with only the occasional small beast crossing our path. I definitely encountered it here. Hannah began to grow impatient as well. I pondered for a moment, then cast my gaze toward a large antlered deer in the distance. Taken by surprise, the large deer could not react in time before its throat was torn out. Hannah swallowed hard as she watched me strike with such lethal precision. Is this for us to eat? Keep dreaming. This is bait for the earth-shattering bear. I looked at her, then skillfully began to gut the carcass. Immediately, the scent of fresh blood began to spread through the air. I knew from my inherited memories that the earth-shattering bear possesses an exceptionally keen sense of smell. As long as it remains in this vicinity, it will surely come. Very well, you may eat here now. Seeing the longing in Hannah's expression, I spoke, then retreated into the nearby brush. Hannah looked at me, and with her natural intelligence, she quickly grasped my intent. Do you want me to serve as bait here? Would you prefer that I be the one acting as bait? You are to wait for the moment to launch a surprise attack and kill the earth-shattering. Perhaps you should be the one to do it. Hannah shook her head vigorously like a drum being beaten. Immediately after, Hannah began to devour the elk. She ate while casting vigilant glances at her surroundings. I watched her focus intently on acting as bait and gave a silent nod. In the future, I would be able to guide this young dragon girl much further. A moment later, a massive black shadow slowly approached. I directed my focus toward that location. Thanks to my heightened vision, I could clearly perceive the creature in the distance. It was a colossal black bear with paws adorned in earth-yellow fur. However, its current state seemed far from optimal. Its body was covered in scattered lacerations from blades. To a beast of its stature, these were likely mere superficial wounds, but embedded in its throat was the jagged half of a black arrow. I sensed its aura carefully. It appeared that this earth-cracking bear was indeed heavily wounded, likely having encountered a mercenary group. The bear's golden pupils remained fixed upon Hannah and the elk carcass in the distance. Its primal instincts whispered that devouring this young dragon would yield immense benefits. Should it succeed, not only would its wounds heal, but its strength would also increase significantly. Unable to restrain itself any longer, it lowered its massive frame and charged forward like a juggernaut. Hannah had only managed a few bites before the sudden commotion startled her. Seeing the earth-cracking bear charging toward her, she could not even swallow the meat in her mouth before scrambling to escape. Hannah's small stature granted her remarkable agility as she fled. Though the earth-cracking bear was hindered by its injuries, it remained relentless, barreling toward her with singular focus. Only then did Hannah realize that in her gluttony she had failed to prepare an escape route. Damn it, she knew she was meant to be the bait, yet her greed had led her to be cornered against the base of a cliff. The earth-cracking bear reared up on its hind legs. Standing at over 5 meters tall, its massive frame radiated an overwhelming sense of oppression. So long, come save me quickly. Hannah felt truly fragile and helpless in that moment. The earth-cracking bear was ecstatic. Having been pursued by those hateful hunters for so long, It had been harboring a belly full of rage, and now it finally had an outlet to vent its fury. At that precise moment, I struck in silence. I had chosen my timing with absolute precision. With the bear's entire focus fixed upon the young dragon, it remained oblivious to the hunter stalking it from the shadows. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. I flapped my wings, launching my entire body upward in one fluid motion. With the assistance of my wings, my speed this time was unnaturally fast. I leapt directly behind the earth-shattering bear and sank my fangs deep into one of its eyes. The agonizing pain forced the earth-shattering bear to let out a deafening roar of torment. Under normal circumstances, it would have been impossible for it to miss such a stealthy assault. But the severity of its injuries and the presence of a seemingly easy prey, a young dragon, had cost it the vigilance expected of a wild beast. The beast's massive paw grasped at my body, attempting to fling me off, but my razor-sharp claws were already embedded deep within its flesh. It could not tear me away. Hannah hurriedly retreated from the battlefield. She sensed that her small stature would not be able to withstand the aftermath. Finding that it could not dislodge me, the earth-shattering bear grew desperate and ferocious. It charged directly toward the cliff wall. I immediately discerned its intent. Yet my objective had already been achieved. Using the momentum, I leaped down from its hide. At this moment, the earth-shattering bear was in immense pain. Fresh blood streamed down its face, painting a gruesome picture of agony. This was because its eye still remained clenched between my jaws. I chewed on the morsel of flesh in my mouth for a moment before swallowing it. The meat of a magical beast is truly different. I also felt that my own temperament seemed to be growing increasingly savage. I do not know if the nature of the dragon has begun to influence me, or if the lingering stress from my previous life as a corporate slave has finally erupted in this world. But these considerations are of no importance. I remain who I am. Witnessing this scene with its single remaining eye, the earth-shattering bear nearly lost its sanity. Even when hunted by those damnable humans, I had never suffered an injury of this magnitude. Yet this fledgling dragon before me is truly this vicious. The earth-shattering bear let out a roar, and golden-brown magical energy began to manifest around it. The reason magical beasts are superior to mere savage beasts is their ability to perceive and manipulate elemental magic. As it unleashed its magic, 7 or 8 earthen spikes erupted rapidly from the ground beneath me, surging toward my position. I reacted the instant the bear released its earth elemental energy, yet I was still struck by one of the earthen spikes. The golden radiance on the surface of the earth-shattering bear's body flared and then vanished. Just as I escaped the range of the spikes, I felt my body suddenly grow heavy. Immediately following that, my movements became sluggish. An earth attribute slowing spell, yet I felt no panic. I never expected this earth-splitting bear to possess such high aptitude, to the point where it could even execute such magical arts. Seeing me restrained, the earth-splitting bear cast a stone-skin technique upon itself and charged straight at me. It seemed to envision the scene where my bones were shattered and broken. Once that moment came, it intended to devour this young dragon alive. According to typical tropes, I thought a simple dodge would suffice for me to slit open the bear's belly, would it not? Illumination spell? I had just unleashed my very first magic spell since arriving in this world. The illumination spell is a type of magic used for lighting. It is merely a utility spell for daily life. In reality, it is rarely utilized by the dragon race. This is because the vision of a true dragon can pierce through the darkest nights, allowing us to see everything with perfect clarity. However, I channeled nearly all of my magical power into the illumination spell, forcing it to achieve an effect akin to a flashbang. The sudden, intense brilliance left the one-eyed earth-splitting bear feeling utterly overwhelmed. This caused it to lose its vision temporarily. The earth-splitting bear opened its maw wide and let out a furious roar. The venom I had stored for so long acted like a sharp blade, spraying directly into the beast's mouth. At this moment, the earth-splitting bear could not even emit a pathetic cry. The acid had already begun to corrode its throat. Before long, its throat was emitting smoke, and its massive body lost all strength, collapsing heavily to the ground. The life force of a magical beast is remarkably tenacious. Even now, the earth-splitting bear clung to a single final breath. Its sole remaining eye watched as I stepped closer. Do not blame me. This world is governed by the law of the jungle. The strong devour the weak, and only those who adapt shall survive. I let out a long sigh before ending the earth-splitting bear's suffering. A look of liberation flickered within the beast's gaze. And as the earth-splitting bear perished, the predator skill was activated. The wounds on my body began to knit together at a speed visible to the naked eye. Fenna came trotting over from out of nowhere. Brother Salong, you are truly formidable. You even managed to slay the earth-splitting bear. Fenna looked at the carcass of the bear and spoke joyfully, but I did not reply, instead plunging my claws into the beast. Searching through its remains, I retrieved an earth-yellow prismatic crystal, which appeared in my hand. As expected, such a powerful earth-splitting bear would surely possess a magic core within its body. At this moment, Fenna tugged on my leg. I glanced at her and said, "Wait until I have finished eating, then the rest is yours." Very well. Looking at the massive form of the earth-rending bear before me, Fenya felt a surge of joy in his heart. A bear of such immense size, even if I were to eat until I could eat no more, I estimate I would not consume even half of it. Therefore, the remainder shall belong to her. I turned my gaze to the interface before me. The Grand Feast skill had finally finished its cooldown. I activated Grand Feast, and as the familiar sensation of ravenous hunger consumed my body, I began to feast upon the carcass of the earth-rending bear. Starting with its 4 limbs, though the meat was raw, the magical essence contained within the beast's flesh provided an invigorating rush. It was both tender and resilient. Simultaneously, the progress percentage for the grand feast began to shift. 20%. After I had consumed half the carcass, the completion rate for the third stage of the grand feast reached 50%. At this point, I began to devour the internal organs of the earth-rending bear. The scent of the bear gall and heart was even more potent. Next came the bones. After consuming half of the bones, I looked at the magic core in my hand, which emitted an even richer fragrance. Without a moment's hesitation, I swallowed it whole. Finally, the progress for the third stage of the grand feast reached 100%. I told Fenna that the rest was hers, but she had better be quick. There might be other predators nearby, so I quickly headed toward the bone-corroding swamp. Fenna rushed forward and began to feed ravenously. Judging by my appearance earlier, she had feared that I would consume the entire earth-rending bear myself. Fortunately, there was still some left. Although it was not about a quarter, it was sufficient for her to eat her fill. Instead of returning to the dragon's den, I randomly excavated a small cave within the bone-corroding swamp and settled inside. In the familiar dim darkness, I watched silently as my body grew stronger with each passing moment constantly evolving. This time, however, it felt different. I focused my attention inward. Earth-colored specks of light emerged within my body, triggering the dragon's rebirth and accumulating the strength of the 10,000-layer invincible feast. Just as I was undergoing the transformation of the third stage of the grand feast, a squad of mercenaries had quietly arrived in a forest on the outer rim of the bone-corroding swamp. A group of 5 moved with caution, scanning their surroundings. Dilia, are you certain that the earth-rending bear came this way? A brawny, blonde-haired man with a robust physique spoke. Strapped to his back was a massive pitch-black shield. Sol, I am quite certain that earth-rending bear is still carrying my magical arrow. The tracking signature from the magical arrow points directly toward this location. A young woman draped in a form-fitting green dress, with a quiver of arrows strapped to her back. A close look at her pointed ears and pink hair reveals that she is not of human lineage. I never expected that earth-shattering bear to flee such a great distance. To have run all the way here, another young man remarked with a yawn. But what if it does not possess a magic core? Asked another man who bore a striking resemblance to the youth. Both men were warriors, much like Captain Soto, though they differed in that they were swordsmen. Captain Soto is a shield warrior. This earth-shattering bear surely possesses a magic core. Although it has not yet reached maturity, it is more formidable than any 5th-rank magical beast we have encountered thus far. The slow spell is merely a prerequisite for gravity manipulation, and that it can wield it with such ease proves that the talent of this earth-splitting bear is truly remarkable. The sole mage in the party was a young man clad in noble white mage robes. Bill, rest assured. We will certainly secure that magic core so you may successfully advance to a 5th-rank mage, and the materials harvested from the earth-splitting bear will be more than enough to earn us a handsome profit. Captain Soto spoke with a smile. Their objective in hunting this beast was primarily to aid Bill, the earth element mage of their party, who was nearing a breakthrough and required an earth element magic core. Thank you, everyone. Bill wore an expression of deep gratitude. Think nothing of it. We are all brothers here, Soto declared with magnanimity. Dia observed the scene, her heart filled with a sense of peace. Was this not the very life she had always yearned for? Such a sentiment is fine, but according to intelligence reports, a mature black dragon may inhabit the corrosive swamp. He spoke suddenly. A mature black dragon? Our mission is not to slay dragons. We shall not venture deep into the corrosive swamp. Remaining at the periphery should pose no issue, correct? Besides, have there not been other mercenary groups who visited the corrosive swamp and returned unscathed? Soto pondered for a moment before replying, Big brother, I believe that once we have grown a bit stronger, we shall be capable of dragon slaying, to bask in the ultimate glory of those who have conquered dragons. The swordsman Laudi's eyes gleamed with ambition. Laudi, do not underestimate any dragon. They are not creatures that we can hope to contend with. Only a legendary mercenary troop could contend with a dragon. Salong spoke with gravity. As the captain, he had to bear responsibility for the entire unit, for a single erroneous decision could lead to the ruin of them all. Relax, boss, I was merely jesting. The group continued deep into the forest, while I finally concluded my period of metamorphosis. Salong, Health 120 Feast Stacks 3. Cooldown for Feast 5 days. Talent 1. Predator. I can restore health and energy by slaying my enemies. The amount determined by the health and energy of the fallen foe. Talent 2. Earth Elemental Affinity. I have successfully acquired a formidable Earth Attribute magical talent. Possessing this affinity for the Earth element is certainly a favorable development. I only wonder to what extent this elemental affinity truly reaches. At this moment, I can genuinely perceive countless specks of golden earth elemental energy seemingly suspended within the air. One must remember that this is the bone-corroding swamp, yet I am able to sense such an abundance of earth elements. However, my inherited members contain very little knowledge regarding earth-based magic. After all, I am a black dragon. Furthermore, true dragons rarely concern themselves with the deliberate study of magic. We need only slumber to reach the pinnacle of power. Who else would bother with such cultivation? I approached the water's edge to gaze upon my own form. My length must have now exceeded 4 meters. Moreover, my physique has become significantly more robust. I have almost entirely shed the traditionally slender appearance of the chromatic dragons. My neck has grown shorter and thicker, my dragon head has become more massive, and the muscle density across my face has increased substantially. To support my crushing bite force, the two dragon horns atop my head have reached further toward the heavens as if intending to pierce the firmament. I harbor no doubts regarding their sharpness. Furthermore, beneath the primary dragon horns, it appears that two smaller horns now extend toward the back of my head, making me look increasingly like the embodiment of death. No, that is incorrect. I look far more handsome than death itself. I surveyed my appearance with self-satisfaction, feeling that compared, I have no need for any schemes. I can defeat it in a direct confrontation. I wonder how Hannah is faring. Sao and the others remained concealed within the dark underbrush. Observing the scene outside, the expressions on everyone's faces were complex, a mix of surprise and fear, though excitement remained the dominant emotion. They never expected that by merely following the tracks of a beast, they would stumble upon such a monumental discovery. For they had discovered a hatchling black dragon. The creature outside appeared entirely unguarded, feasting upon the carcass of the earth-cracking bear. A spark of intense greed ignited in the eyes of the twin brothers. "Captain, we must remain calm. The earth-cracking bear is not something this young dragon could have slain on its own. Therefore, an adult black dragon must certainly be nearby. We should depart from here immediately," the elven archer said with a composed tone. "Captain, this is a rare opportunity. The value of a black dragon hatchling is immeasurable. Its worth goes without saying. This could be the chance for us to alter our destiny forever. If we let this pass, such an occasion will never arise again." Laudi's eyes burned with fervor as he stared at the small black dragon. A dragon hatchling such as this is nothing less than a gift delivered to our very doorstep. If we manage to capture it alive, whether we sell it to the princes or raise it ourselves, the rewards will be immense. Then Laudi shall become a dragon knight. The lifespan of a dragon cannot be compared to that of a mere human. It is said that some dragon knights command their dragons to cast a symbiotic life spell, allowing them to share half of the dragon's longevity, to live for several hundred or even thousands of years. This is the foundation upon which a powerful clan is born. Laudi was already envisioning himself atop a mighty dragon, basking in his own glorious majesty. A look of internal conflict crossed Sao's face. He looked at his companions. Laudi and his brother were visibly agitated, while Delia's expression remained one of opposition. Mu stood with his head bowed, remaining silent. "Let us put this to a vote. That will be the fairest course of action. Who is in favor of taking action?" As Sao spoke, the Laudi brothers immediately raised their hands. Delia stood to the side, clutching her bow, and remained silent. "I also do not agree. The risk is too great. I must consider." Just as Sao breathed a sigh of relief, Bill, who had been bowing his head, suddenly raised his hand. Delia looked at Bill in disbelief. In her memory, Bill had never been one to lack reason. There is still the leader to consider. "I understand the value of a dragon hatchling better than anyone else here. Laudi is correct. In our entire lives, we may never encounter an opportunity like this again. Once we capture the dragon hatchling, we shall depart immediately, and no one will be able to stop us." Boo spoke each word with deliberate precision, struggled for a moment before speaking with a cruel edge. "Then, let us begin." Hannah was still enjoying a hearty meal of earth-splitting bear meat. The flesh of this demonic beast had not yet decayed, though the taste left much to be desired. I should have added a touch of corrosive acid before consuming it. Hannah chewed, lost in thought, realizing she might not be able to finish such a large portion. Perhaps I should bring some back for Lady Meili? She was severely disciplined by the mother dragon last time, and her wounds have yet to fully heal. Furthermore, I must endeavor to stay in Sal's good graces in the future. Just then, an arrow suddenly whistled out from the tall grass. Hannah could not suppress a cry of agony. Instead of looking toward the source of the attack, she instinctively bolted in the direction Sal had previously departed. The ground suddenly trembled, and 4 or 5 stone pillars erupted from the earth, trapping Hannah within an enclosure. Delia's precise arrow struck Hannah's hind leg, working in tandem with Boo's earth attribute magic to seal her fate. They knew the dragon hatchling could not yet fly, thus rendering her immobile was all that was required. "Quickly, move quickly." Sao and the others charged forward without hesitation. The Laudi brothers produced a massive net and threw it over Hannah. Hannah struggled, but her efforts only caused the net to tighten further around her. At this moment, Hannah was seized by total despair. "Allah, quickly, come and save me." Fully aware of her dire predicament, Hannah roared desperately into the surrounding woods. "Get away." Sao and Laudi hoisted the captured Hannah and retreated rapidly toward the perimeter. Mu and Delia provided cover from the rear. Witnessing the hatchling's mournful cries, Delia felt a pang of reluctance in her heart. Delia, black dragons are the most wicked and shameless of all dragon kind. Once this black dragon reaches maturity, there is no telling how many innocent lives will be lost to its maw. Do not waste your compassion on it. Mu spoke sharply. I returned to the side of the earth-splitting bear's carcass, noting that much of it had been consumed. It seemed Hannah had enjoyed her meal well. At this moment, I flared my nostrils. The scent was not right. A dragon's sense of smell is exceptionally keen, and my vitality stats are remarkably high. This causes my olfactory senses to far surpass those of an ordinary giant dragon. Aside from the scent of Hannah and the ground-ripping bear here, there are many other pungent, chaotic odors. There are even several human footprints on the ground. Hannah is in trouble. A dangerous glint flashed in my eyes. Although Hannah is a bit foolish, she is, after all, a true dragon. Once she matures, she will be formidable. I had intended to make her my subordinate. This place is only a few kilometers from the Dragon Mother's cave. Having come and gone in such haste, I have no idea where Hannah has been taken. Yet, for these people to dare intrude upon the territory of an adult black dragon, I wonder what their true strength might be. What is that? I looked warily toward a spot off to the side. Salong, it is you. Emily's small figure emerged from behind the brush. She stared at me in astonishment. This guy has grown again. He is already 3 or 4 times my size. We are both dragon hatchlings. How are you growing so fast? Emily, Hannah has been captured by humans. Hurry and alert the Dragon Mother. I will go and track down Hannah first. Seeing Emily like this, it was clear she had only just arrived. Therefore, I spoke immediately. What? Hannah has been captured by humans? Emily exclaimed in shock, and I replied, if you do not hurry, Hannah may never return. I cast a cold glance at her, beat my wings, and swiftly pursued the lingering scent. Although I am not yet capable of true flight, I can use my wings. Melly looked toward the direction I had departed, then cast her gaze upon the demonic beast meat left on the ground. Gritting her teeth, she sprinted toward the lair of the mother dragon. The group fled in a frenzied panic. Sao felt this was the most insane act he had ever committed in his life, daring to intrude upon the territory of a mature black dragon. They were stealing its offspring, and they needed to be faster. Not a single person dared to pause for even a moment. They were well aware of the gravity of their actions. If they were intercepted by the mature black dragon, their fate would be all too easy to predict. As for Na, she had been rendered completely unconscious by a potent dose of magical tranquilizers they had administered earlier. Once this is done, we shall rise above all others. The group thought with firm resolve, though only Delia's azure eyes betrayed a flicker of anxiety. Tazo and his cohorts had never faced a mature dragon before, but she had personally witnessed the true terror such a creature could unleash. That peerless, overwhelming power was something she would never forget for the rest of her life. She believed this decision made by Sao and his associates was deeply unwise. After pursuing them for a time, my extraordinary vision finally caught sight of the group. At that moment, I was approximately 500 meters away from them. Cloaked by the dense forest, they remained completely unaware of my presence. Drawing upon the appraisal arts found within my inherited memories, I identified their levels of strength: a 4th-tier earth mage, a 5th-tier warrior, and an elf archer. To think that those with such meager cultivation would dare approach the lair of a mature dragon, and even go so far as to steal its young. I carefully weighed the disparity in our strength. After a moment, I concluded that it was worth a gamble. Although waiting for the mother black dragon to act would be the safer route, I knew that if she intervened, the spoils upon those people would no longer be mine to claim. Never underestimate the possessiveness of a dragon when it comes to treasure. No matter how significant my contribution might be, the mother black dragon would not grant me a single silver coin. With that thought, I prepared to strike, and as if by fate, the group came to a halt. Boss, let us rest for a moment. We are nearly out of the corrosive forest. We can no longer keep up with this grueling pace. Lao Di wiped the sweat from his face. Impossible. We must reach the city of Cali as quickly as possible. Before Sao could respond, Delia spoke up from the side. But we are exhausted and this dragon hatchling is quite heavy. Before they realized it, they had already come to a halt. Mu attempted to step forward to offer some counsel, but a cold glint flashed in my eyes. The opportunity had arrived. In any skirmish, the mage must be the priority target. I suddenly erupted with the lethality of a reaper. The massive dragon head lunged forward, sinking its fangs directly into Bill's neck and shoulder. An earthy yellow light manifested on Bill's body, forming a protective barrier. Yet that barrier could barely withstand the pressure of my jaws, shattering in less than a second. By the time Sazo and the others reacted, it was already too late. Bill's neck and left shoulder vanished instantly, leaving nothing behind. Fresh blood sprayed across the faces of those standing nearby. Damn you, Bill. They had never expected that Bill would be killed by a dragon that appeared so abruptly. Even his defensive magical artifacts had proven entirely useless. They had been crushed to pieces by the fangs of this young dragon. Sazo took the lead, raising the object from behind his back. He hurled his massive shield toward Salong. Lilia reached for her bow and arrows. Cyan magical arrows began raining down upon me incessantly. The Laudi brothers flanked me from both left and right, initiating a pincer attack. I hoisted Bill's corpse and hurled it toward Lilia, attempting to bypass the other three. That full-force strike was aimed solely at Lilia. The mage was now incapacitated. It was time to deal with the others, but Sazo refused to grant me the opening. Consumed by rage, he unleashed every ounce of his silver-white battle aura. Accelerating, he used his shield to intercept my advance. My frame collided directly with that massive shield. Sazo was sent reeling backward while I remained rooted to the spot. Yet this collision forced my movements to a temporary halt. You people are truly daring, I declared in the common tongue of the continent. Whether in my previous life or this one, this was the first time I had ever taken a human life. Moreover, I had personally torn through the flesh of my opponent with my own mouth. Fresh blood still dripped from the corners of my maw, yet I felt no repulsion toward the sensation. Kill him. Sazo regained his composure. The thought of Bill's tragic end burned within him, fueling his agony. Seeing this, I merely shook my head, then died. I did not evade. Instead, I charged headlong into the fray, my razor-sharp fangs biting deep into Sazo's massive shield. With a sharp snap, I bit a chunk straight out of the shield. I chewed for a moment before swallowing. The flavor was not half bad. Sao started in shock, struggling to suppress a surge of grief. The creature before him, resembling a young dragon, was absolutely not something he and his companions could contend with. Everyone go ahead. I will remain to hold the line. It is enough if I can save even one of you. Just as Cao glanced to his side, he discovered that the Lao brothers had already vanished, having fled with the young dragon, leaving only Delia standing firmly behind him. Lao Soto, how could you all do this? Cao was overwhelmed with grief and absolute indignation. He never expected that at the moment of greatest peril, those he considered as kin would abandon their friends. I looked upon them all with a sneer. Never try to test the limits of human nature. Delia, you must leave. Delia looked at me with wariness. Delia wanted to say something more. Leave, now. Cao charged forward, launching an attack directly at me. None of you are leaving this place. I spoke coldly. Only now do you display such brotherhood? Where was this conviction before? A pathetic amateur band like you dares to attempt to steal a dragon? I unleashed the full extent of my power. Tears welled up in Delia's eyes. She drew her bow and fired several arrows before leaping onto the branches to flee. The arrow struck my scales, leaving behind only faint white marks. One arrow struck the scales on my underbelly, but my muscles clamped down, trapping it firmly without even drawing blood. I reached out with both claws and seized Sazo's shield. With a mere exertion of strength, the shield was torn away. Sazo drew a long sword from his back and struck down at me. I spat a stream of acid, but the battle aura surrounding Sazo's body neutralized it. I countered by lunging forward, using my head to send him flying. Sazo quickly regained his footing. Just as Sazo prepared to, there a dragon's claw had pierced through his body. Blood flowed ceaselessly from Sazo's mouth. We should not have been so greedy. The light in Sazo's eyes gradually faded. He gazed up at the distant sky with deep longing. He still had one unfulfilled wish. He had always admired a certain beautiful, reserved spirit. He was indeed a true warrior, yet our paths were destined to diverge. I watched as Sazo fell. This is a world where the strong prey upon the weak. Had he lacked true strength moments ago, men like Sazo would have captured or executed him without a moment's hesitation. Otherwise, he would be enslaved for a lifetime, crushed beneath the heels of others. Or perhaps his dragon blood would be drained and his dragon bones forged into some formidable artifact of dark magic. Whether in the concrete jungle of my past life or this realm of sorcery, it is always the law of the jungle. If you do not wish to perish, then you must ensure those who seek your demise die first, be they human or any other creature. Having reached this realization, I ceased my hesitation. My resolve was now absolute. I approached the corpse of the Mage Bill and began to search his remains, finding only a shard of what appeared to be a shattered jade pendant. I looked at the ring on Boo's finger and slid it off. I channeled my spiritual sense into the object. Within, I discovered a spatial dimension spanning several square meters. It contained an assortment of armor, ores, and gold coins. There were also silver coins and a few magical scrolls. It seemed this was a magical artifact, a storage vessel crafted by a master of spatial sorcery. Boo's background must have been significant given the wealth contained within, though this was hardly the moment to inventory the spoils. At that instant, a furious dragon's roar echoed throughout the bone-eroding swamp and the adjacent forest. Within the woods, magical beasts and savage creatures alike trembled. Some were even frightened to death by the sheer weight of the dragon's aura. Knowing the Black Dragoness was enraged, I quickly concealed the magical artifact and waited in silence. A massive shadow descended from the heavens. The colossal form of the Black Dragoness appeared before me, her 16-meter frame radiating an unrestrained, crushing draconic pressure. Where is Salona? The Black Dragoness looked down at the bodies on the ground and demanded. These were the first words I had heard since arriving in this world. She was taken by mercenaries. I tried my best to slay 2 of them, but I could not stop them. I made myself appear disheveled and desperate. Fool. The Black Dragon matriarch was consumed by fury. With a single lash of her tail, she sent me flying across the distance. She did not even pause to consider how I had managed to slay a level 5 warrior and a level 4 mage. The Black Dragon matriarch chanted in the language of dragons to cast a tracking spell, then took flight in pursuit. I regained my footing only after she had departed. It seemed the Black Dragon matriarch was merely venting her rage rather than intending a fatal blow. The Lao brothers were fleeing frantically with Sin Na. Lao, are we truly certain that leaving our eldest brother and the others behind is the right choice? The 2 brothers shared a silent, unspoken understanding. With a single glance, Lao Di had made the decision to flee immediately. It was clear that our eldest brother and the others were no match for her. If they can buy us enough time to make a clean escape, that is all that matters. We shall be forever grateful to them. Lao Di's eyes were cold and devoid of pity. There was no room for hesitation or doubt. Had our eldest brother not said it himself? We are all brothers. If they must perish to secure our future, then so be it. It is a death that carries meaning. Hearing his younger brother's words, Ken let out a weary sigh. The city of Kalir lies just ahead. Once we enter, even a mature black dragon cannot touch us. Lao Di gazed at the distant city walls and replied, then let us hasten our pace. The 2 men rushed out of the forest, sprinting towards the city walls that were now within their grasp. Seeing the multitude of mercenaries entering the city, they breathed a sigh of relief. Yet, as a deafening dragon's roar echoed through the air, their minds went blank. The boundless draconic pressure crushed them completely. By the time they regained their senses, it was already too late. Her colossal wings seemed to blot out the entire sky. On the distant city walls, alarm bells rang incessantly. So was paralyzed with terror at the sight of the mature black dragon descending from the heavens. But Lao Di's reflexes were sharp. He pulled Jin Na from the mesh bag, then knelt down, trembling as he spoke. Honorable Mother of Black Dragons, We don't intend to offend you. Please, quell your wrath. The Black Dragon matriarch did not reach for Shin-Na. Instead, she opened her maw vast as a blood-soaked basin and snapped her jaws shut. Amidst Lao Di's desperate screams, she swallowed him whole. Suo, too, standing nearby, attempted to reach Han-Na to take her hostage and threaten the Black Dragon Lady. However, the Black Dragon Lady was incredibly swift. In the blink of an eye, before he could even utter a sound, he was bitten into 2 pieces. In truth, had she merely exhaled a breath of acid, both of them would have been reduced to nothing but bone and gristle. But the Black Dragon Lady took great pleasure in this method of slaughter. She paid no heed to Han-Na, who remained stunned at her feet, and instead turned her gaze toward the distant city walls. By this time, the soldiers on the Kaleni city walls had already descended into a state of panicked chaos. Quickly, prepare the magic crystal cannons. Where are the archers? Hurry! Prepare the ballistae to fire. Where are the mages? The Black Dragon Lady mocked the scene before her. How could these foolish, fragile humans ever comprehend the true power of a true dragon? The Black Dragon Lady ascended, looking down upon the city of Kaleni, like a sovereign surveying her own domain. In the eyes of a chromatic dragon, humanoid creatures are nothing more than beasts of burden or insects. They are convinced that they are the innate rulers of this world, and thus, all the treasures within it rightfully belong to them. Seeing this, the commander on the wall frantically issued his orders. The soldiers, their nerves already stretched to the breaking point, immediately released their bowstrings. Countless arrows, mingled with several that had been enchanted, flew toward the Black Dragon Lady in the sky, along with the bolts from the ballistae. With a powerful beat of her wings, the Black Dragon Lady summoned a gale. Except for a few ballista bolts, all the arrows fell harmlessly away. The Black Dragon Lady casually snapped the remaining ballista bolts in half, then soared above the city, gazing down at the earth below with a cruel, mocking smile. A conical jet of acid erupted from her maw, rapidly spreading across the city. Half of the Kaleni district was subjected to a hellish downpour of acid. Instantly, cries of agony echoed from every corner. Save us! Someone please help us! The tragic wails of countless warriors were truly bone-chilling. At that moment, a flash of white light erupted, revealing a man. The middle-aged man flew to a position not far from the Black Dragon Empress. He was none other than the Lord of Kaleni City, a level 8 light element mage Dio. At this moment, he surveyed the scene with a grim expression. Was there not a truce agreement in place? What possessed this black dragon to fly into such a rage? Great Black Dragon Empress, have you forgotten the covenant you made with us? You humans are truly duplicitous. You speak one way to our faces while acting behind our backs, daring to send someone to steal my child. The Black Dragon Empress retorted in a fury. Of course, whether this was the true cause of her anger remained to be seen. Great Black Dragon Empress, where is this accusation coming from? Dio asked, deeply suspicious. Then what is this? The Black Dragon Empress pointed toward the dazed, foolish-looking Hina on the ground, challenging him. The methods used on Hina were clearly those of a professional mercenary. Dio's complexion soured. Who on earth was responsible for stealing a dragon hatchling? To steal was one thing, but to be discovered was another. And to be discovered was bad enough, but to be hunted down by her was even worse. Black Dragon Empress, this is surely a misunderstanding. Dio quickly regained his composure. Human, are you attempting to humiliate a great true dragon? The Black Dragon Empress let out a thunderous roar, and from the corrosive forest behind her, hundreds of creatures crawled forth. There were filthy abominations and repulsive crocodiles, interspersed with creatures such as terror wolves and giant pythons. From afar, I remained hidden in the bushes, observing the spectacle. I realized these must be the subordinates of the Black Dragon Empress. They lacked any sense of grandeur. But in the eyes of Dio and the people of Kaleni City, this signaled that the cunning Black Dragon was on the verge of madness. Black Dragon Empress, what price must we pay for you to return to your domain? Though resentment burned within his heart, Dio was forced to speak. Foolish humans, who do you think I am? The Black Dragon Empress replied coldly. Dio immediately felt a headache coming on. It appeared that the price to be paid this time would not be small. It seemed this creature would not be easily appeased. These chromatic dragons should have been reduced to corpses. I had actually noticed that the Black Dragoness seemed to be wary of something. This entire incident was merely a pretext to escalate the situation. I quietly retreated. Whatever followed would no longer concern me. I did not return to the dragon's lair but instead made my way to a valley not far from it. This was the place Hin-Na had once mentioned she wished for us to build a nest. I did not know if there were many magical beasts in the vicinity, but I found myself quite fond of this location. With water and lush vegetation, the air was filled with the scent of earth, and the earth element was remarkably dense here. I opened the magical artifact belonging to that earth element mage and began to examine its contents in detail. The gold coins numbered roughly over 300, with several dozen silver coins and an assortment of gemstones. Most importantly, there were several spell scrolls and books on earth element magic, written in the common tongue of the continent. For a black dragon, understanding these texts presented no difficulty. Beginner earth element magic, earth spike. Intermediate earth element magic, earth bind. High-level beginner magic, earth pulse. Advanced earth element magic, earthquake, mother of earth, recovery spells, and stasis, which reduces the movement speed of enemies. This mage was truly wealthy. I felt as if I could soon become a colossal earth dragon. I possess an inherent affinity for the earth element, so learning these techniques should not be overly difficult. I am not one of the chromatic dragons of this world that places high value on human trinkets and the like. A true dragon practices both magic and martial arts simultaneously. They need only accumulate time to grow immensely powerful. Why then should I waste time studying magic? Would it not be better to spend that time sleeping? I began to practice according to the instructions in the spellbooks. I set out to construct my own magical model. From my perspective, these clusters of earth elemental light appeared like playful children surrounding me. Under my mental guidance, the model was constructed rapidly. More than 30 massive conical earth spikes erupted from beneath the ground, causing the earth to tremble. I felt that this spell seemed to be nothing more than this. Firstly, the casting speed is far too slow. Against any creature with a swift reaction time, it poses absolutely no threat whatsoever. However, an idea began to take root in my mind. I shifted my focus toward the stasis spell. I was not unfamiliar with this particular incantation. The earth-cracking bear once unleashed this technique upon me. Though I managed to withstand it, one cannot deny that its power is extraordinary. After all, spells involving the manipulation of gravity are never simple. Constructing the magical framework for the delay spell is twice as complex as that of the earth spike technique. This endeavor demanded a significant amount of effort from X Long. Activate, I commanded, casting the delay spell upon myself. Instantly, an immense pressure descended upon my body, yet it remained within the limits of what I could endure. However, this assessment only applies to my own strength. For those with lesser cultivation, this is far from a trivial spell. The casting speed of the delay spell is quite impressive, several times faster than the earth spike technique. I began to weave both the delay spell and the earth spike technique simultaneously. The conical earth spikes of the earth spike technique erupted from the ground once more. But this time the difference lay in my control. The total quantity of spikes had been significantly reduced. In their place, they manifested as numerous sharp spikes, each exceeding 1 meter in length. Their quantity tripled, covering a circular area with a radius of 20 meters. This area precisely matched the range of my delay spell. Within this perimeter, an enemy would have no choice but to face the onslaught of these earth spikes. I am truly a genius. This technique is nothing short of devastating. I recall that the Void Terror possesses a skill strikingly similar to this creation of mine. Nonetheless, there is still room for refinement. For instance, incorporating a swamp spell would further impede the movements of any adversary. I suddenly realized that the process of crafting one's own techniques is quite exhilarating. While I was fully engrossed in the thrill of innovating these exclusive skills, the Lord of Seileni Geo City was far from pleased. At this moment, Lord Geo gazed upon his depleted treasury with a grim expression, having emptied it to satiate the gluttony of that wretched black dragon. He had surrendered nearly all the assets in his vault to the beast, including rare treasures once earmarked as tribute for the king of the kingdom of Diao. He could no longer continue like this. That black dragon is growing increasingly avaricious, it must be eliminated. A look of resolve flashed in Geo's eyes as he quickly penned a letter and sealed it within a gold-colored envelope. Someone come here. What are your orders, Lord? A guard clad in heavy silver armor entered. Deliver this letter to the capital of Diao and present it directly to the king. Geo said in a low, somber voice, obey. Watching the guard depart, Geo let out a cold, sharp laugh. There are many kingdoms upon this continent. While the kingdom of Diao may not be the most formidable, this time we must eliminate it at all costs. By doing so, whether it be the treasures of the past or the offerings sent now, everything will be returned twofold. Within the lair inside the corrosive swamp, the black dragon mother gazed upon the wealth piling up before her, her eyes brimming with delight. These lowly humans still possess such treasures. Next time I must force them to present even more, many times the amount brought today. If they fail to do so, I shall devour them all. Thus it continued, though in truth, the black dragon Lisa had only just reached maturity. She was merely 101 years old this year. By human standards, she was but a girl of 17 or 18. At this age, what other multicolored dragon exists? Who possesses as much treasure as she? Reflecting on this, the black dragon mother lay down contentedly upon her hoard and began to roll about. Outside the cave, Hannah and Amy were trembling in fear. After being snatched up by the black dragon mother's claw, they had been cast aside outside the cavern entrance. This experience had been a severe blow to Hannah. After all, she had very nearly been captured by the humans. Hannah, you were far too careless. If I hadn't risked my life to awaken our mother from her slumber, you would have already been captured, skinned, and deboned by those humans. Amy declared, brimming with pride. Amy, thank you. Hannah still appeared shaken. The outside world was truly terrifying. From now on, she would remain here until she reached full maturity. So, it would be best for you to venture out less with Salong. Amy rolled her eyes, adding, Salong is actually quite good to you. He even gives you plenty of earth-cracking bear meat to eat. The meat of magical beasts is truly delicious. Hannah licked her lips. What? Salong actually went out of his way to hunt magical beast meat just for you? Amy was filled with astonishment. Among the colored dragons, there is rarely any profound bond of kinship. It is fortunate enough to not be bullied, let alone cared for. Not to mention how difficult it is to hunt magical beasts at this stage. Even if one were caught, it would never be shared. Furthermore, what exactly is Salong doing with Hannah? Could it be that he intends to mate with her? Amy looked at the naive Hannah, feeling a deep sense of indignation in her heart. Salong was in a state of agitation, yet this was hardly the season for such instincts. Emily, I am starving. I must go and find Salong. Hannah suddenly declared at that very moment. You fool, only moments ago you swore you would never step outside again. Emily bit Hannah's ear in a fit of irritation. But if we do not go out, how are we to eat? Hannah gazed at Emily with a look of bewilderment. Eat? Eat, is that all you ever think about? Go and eat dirt then, Emily retorted, clearly vexed. Wait, could it be that you, Emily, have been eating dirt all this time? Hannah noticed that a patch of earth within the cavern appeared significantly diminished. What business is that of yours? How could the future greatest Black Dragon Queen ever stoop to eating dirt? Emily said with a look of disdain. Fine, I shall go find Salong myself. Hannah shook her head and bolted toward the entrance. Emily watched Hannah's retreating figure, beginning to lose her composure. To think I cannot even find a fellow dragon who does not consume filth. At that moment, I stood upon an open clearing, all four limbs planted firmly, eyes closed to perceive the surrounding shifts. In an instant, a small mound of earth erupted just behind me. I have found you. I have been waiting for this moment. I lashed out with my tail, sending a creature over 3 meters long flying. It appeared as though it had practically delivered itself to Salong's tail. Salong turned to look. The creature sprawled upon the ground was an infernal spider. Its jet-black exoskeleton, 8 ghastly eyes, and the toxic green bristles upon its legs all signaled that this was no simple prey. It hissed incessantly in my direction. The infernal spider is a subterranean demonic beast. Every hair on its body is venomous, and it provides very little sustenance. I had no desire to consume this creature, yet I was compelled to eliminate it, for my nest had been constructed in the immediate vicinity. With such a competitor lurking nearby, my source of food would be greatly diminished. To finish it off, I suppressed my dragon's aura entirely and intentionally stepped into the web trap it had spun. As the web shattered under the surge of my magical power, the infernal spider felt its body become immensely heavy. Just as it attempted to flee, countless enchanted stone spikes erupted from the earth, impaling it instantly. This was not quite as I had envisioned. I had expected to simply swat it aside. Watching the infernal spider struggle in its final gasps, I exhaled a torrent of acid to end its life. Shalong, are you hunting again? At that moment, Hannah came running over. I looked at her. It must be said that the recovery ability of a true dragon is formidable, as the piercing wound on Hannah's leg had already healed so quickly. This is for you, I said, pointing to the pitch-black subterranean spider carcass being eroded by acid nearby. Thank you, Shalong. Hannah was immediately invigorated. She stepped forward, grabbed one of the spider's legs, and began to gnaw on it. The sight made me feel quite uneasy. Shalong, could you not leave so soon? There was a look of supplication in Hannah's eyes as she recalled the time she was ambushed while eating alone. Rest assured, I am not going anywhere. At that moment, my eyes brightened. I had just practiced the Earth System magic, Earth Pulse Vibration. I could clearly sense a creature approaching from deep underground. It seemed a worthy opponent was finally arriving. As expected, just as Hannah was gnawing on the spider's head, 2 4-meter-long tentacles instantly burst through the ground and lunged to constrict her. Brother Shalong. Hannah, terrified, leaped 3 meters into the air and scrambled toward me as she rolled and crawled. Stay back, I commanded, stepping forward and biting off one of the tentacles. Accompanied by an angry roar, a massive entity shattered the surface of the earth and revealed itself before us. Looking at the beast, it was neither fully fish nor insect, appearing much like a cephalopod. The inherited memories within my mind provided the necessary information. The abyssal sea demon fish. Indeed, this creature was none other than the abyssal sea demon fish. The most notable characteristic of the abyssal sea demon fish is its 4 tentacles. These squid-like tentacles are used primarily for attacking and subduing prey. I had not expected such a massive catch to appear. Shalong, we cannot defeat it, can we? Hannah asked weakly. That applies to you, not me. Step aside. I directly swallowed the severed tentacle of the abyssal sea demon fish. Hannah dejectedly moved to the side. I wonder if it tastes good or if it even contains a demonic beast core. I gazed at the abyssal sea demon fish and now I no longer found it the least bit ferocious. This time, I activated my talent. An intense, ravenous hunger surged within me instantly. The feast began. I lunged toward the abyssal demon fish like a tiger pouncing upon its prey. The abyssal demon fish opened its circular maw, revealing a cavern filled with razor-sharp teeth. It showed no signs of weakness, lashing out at me with its 3 remaining tentacles. I twisted my body, narrowly evading 2 of the strikes. The final tentacle struck my back, the suckers on its surface shattering several scales on my dragon form. Its strength was considerable. Sensing it had wounded its enemy, the demon beast seized the opportunity to press the attack. The 3 tentacles converged, forming a pin shape as they plummeted toward my body. It seems I have provoked a sense of confidence within the beast. Driven by the depths of my hunger, I latched onto one of the demon fish's tentacles and began to feed. The progress of the feast began to climb slowly from 0%. Agonized, the demon fish attempted to retract its tentacle, but I refused to grant it that chance. I tore through its tentacle with brutal force. The abyssal demon fish let out a cry of pained fury. The 2 remaining tentacles struck my back without mercy. Yet, I paid them no heed. Once it was established that this creature could not breach my defenses, why should I concern myself with its flailing? The feast remained my only priority. Sensing the situation turning dire, the abyssal demon fish attempted to retreat back into the depths of the earth. Naturally, I would not allow it such an opportunity. I sprawled directly across the back of the demon fish and continued to feast. How savage the sand dragon truly is. Na, who was watching from the sidelines, had not expected me to begin consuming the abyssal demon fish alive. As I consumed more and more, the resistance of the abyssal demon fish grew increasingly feeble. At last it ceased all movement, for I had hollowed out its entire back. After a while longer, I finished my meal. The progress of the feast remained stalled at 80%. I realized that if I were to continue eating, the progress would still increase, though the pace was agonizingly slow. Even if I devoured the remainder of this abyssal demon fish, it would yield no further growth. The remainder is yours. I spoke to Na, who was drooling beside me. Na rushed forward impatiently, though she paused to glance toward the direction I was heading between bites. To prevent me from straying too far, I suppressed my hunger and retreated into the cave I had excavated. Upon activating the Earth Element Mage artifact I had previously acquired, a scent immediately flooded my senses. These gold coins shine with such brilliance. They must surely be a delicious treat, must they not? I grabbed a handful of gold coins and tossed them into my mouth. The feast progress increased by about 1 point, after which I consumed a magic staff that possessed a much richer aroma. The quality of this staff was decent, with a pungent, numbing flavor. I then grabbed some silver coins to sample them as well. It tasted like chives, though compared to the gold, the silver provided significantly less progress toward the feast. In no time at all, the pile of gold had been almost entirely consumed. And finally, the progress bar for the feast reached 100%. I laid flat within the cave, silently awaiting my metamorphosis. It was the same void, dark as ink. Like an outside observer, I watched my body slowly undergo a transformation, my neck gradually growing thicker and stronger, while the vertebrae in my neck began to compress. This caused my neck to slowly shorten, and the 4 dragon horns upon my head grew increasingly massive. They extended down to my neck, and a sharp horn manifested above my nose. My jaw became increasingly robust. The musculature of my face grew more defined. My bite force intensified, and the muscles in my limbs became progressively taut, much like tempered steel. Subsequently, my entire body began to expand. My back broadened significantly, and unlike other black dragons, the scales on my body, which grayed with age, now shimmered with a metallic luster. I opened my eyes and stood up. Health 150, Feast level 5 days, Innate Talent 1, Predator. I am able to recover health and energy by slaying my enemies. The amount recovered is determined by the health and energy reserves of the fallen foe. Innate Talent 2, Earth Elemental Affinity. I have acquired a potent affinity for earth-based magic, though no new innate talents were added. It seems new talents are granted based on the specific properties of the objects I consume. It is a pity that while the strength of this abyssal devilfish was higher than that of the earth-splitting bear, it lacked a magic core. It seems I must diversify my diet in the future. Moreover, it appears that gold and silver are used primarily to fortify the defense of my dragon scales. This is not a bad outcome. I estimate my body length has reached nearly 6 meters. This rate of growth is far from ordinary, and one should not assume that a larger frame would make me cumbersome. For a true dragon, a greater size only equates to greater agility, because for me, size is synonymous with overwhelming power and a boundless reservoir of inner vitality. I unfurled my wings, which had grown significantly larger than before. With a wingspan approaching 9 meters, a single flap seemed enough to lift me into the sky. I stepped out slowly. Hannah and Amelie were waiting together at the entrance of my cave. "So long, I apologize. I could not finish the carcass of the abyssal devilfish, so I shared a portion with Amelie," Hannah said cautiously. Since Amelie had assisted her previously, she could not bear to watch Amelie continue to sustain herself on soil, and furthermore, she desired a companion. However, this was my spoils of war. Even though she had already given it away, I still felt a brief explanation was necessary. At this moment, Amelie remained silent, utterly stunned by my sheer size. "How have you grown again?" Amelie exclaimed. It was as if Hannah had only just realized it as well. "That is right. Why have you grown so much so long?" I paid the 2 dragonesses no mind. It was merely a bit of leftover food, after all. I attempted a short sprint before vigorously flapping my massive, powerful wings. I felt my limbs slowly lift from the earth, and with the aid of the wind, I ascended directly into the air. Watching Hannah and Amelie shrink into tiny specks below, a surge of excitement washed over me. Whether in my previous life or this one, this was the first time I had taken flight under my own power. Traveling by aircraft does not count. I felt the whistle of the wind against my ears and watched the landscape diminish below me. An unyielding ambition stirred within my heart. I must become powerful. I must live freely. I must amass the greatest fortunes, and I must possess the most beautiful women on this continent. I shook my head, casting aside the thought of trampling all those beneath my feet for now. Before striving for such heights, I must first accumulate thousands of layers of feast. Let us start with a modest goal, 1,000 layers of feast. With that thought, I continued my ascent. I did not rely on magical power to hover. I flew solely by the strength of my own wings. I realized that my wings were far larger. Everyone knows that among the chromatic dragons, the red dragon possesses the largest wingspan. They are also capable of sustained flight without the need for magic, unlike other chromatic dragon species. Consequently, black, green, and white dragons are not adept at long-distance flight. I attempted to infuse a trace of magic to assist my flight. Instantly, my speed increased significantly. Han-E and Amelie watched me soar, their mouths widening in shock, their heads tilting further back to track my ascent. Until I was no longer visible, they wondered, "Is this truly still a hatchling?" Amelie muttered, but Salong is not like that. Whenever this abyssal demon fish is mentioned, Salong could easily slay it, yet the abyssal demon fish could easily slaughter both of us. Such is the disparity in strength. Along must surely be blessed by the dragon god. Han-E shook her head as she spoke. She had grown accustomed to the fact that every time I slumbered, I would undergo a monumental transformation. I merely said nothing more, instead focusing on gnawing at the rotting flesh of the abyssal demon fish. After a moment of thought, she began to chew on the bones as well. Does Salong not enjoy eating bones? She consumed them too. Several days later, the city of Kaleni underwent a subtle shift. Gio, in his capacity as the city lord, bowed humbly before the individual standing above him. A young man with golden hair, clad in golden attire, was receiving the salute. Your Highness Lavia, I did not expect the king to dispatch you here to handle this matter. City Lord Gio, you are being far too courteous. Lavia nodded with a smile, his expression bright and radiant. He turned and spoke gently to a young woman wearing the noble garments behind. Rest assured, this time we will certainly eliminate that black dragon. Thank you, Your Highness Lavia. I truly do not know how to express my gratitude. Tears of thankfulness welled up in Laura's eyes. Given our relationship, there is no need for such formalities. As your younger brother, he perished here under mysterious circumstances, leaving not even a corpse behind. How could I possibly sit idly by and do nothing? A cold glint flickered in Lavia's eyes before he feigned an accidental gesture and grasped Laura's hand. Laura wore an expression of deep admiration. Lavia, you are truly courageous. Immediately, she quietly withdrew her hand. Rest assured, this time I shall certainly become a legendary dragon slayer. Lavia spoke with pride. But your highness, that black dragon has reached maturity. It will not be easily dealt with. Gio looked at Lavia, observing that he was merely a 5th-tier mage, and felt a sense of hesitation. Set your mind at ease, City Lord Gio. I have my own methods. This time I have brought 2 8th-tier warriors, and most importantly this. Lavia withdrew 2 scrolls from his magical storage artifact. These are forbidden magic scrolls. Gio's pupils contracted in shock. Scrolls of this caliber could only be crafted by a legendary tier mage. Their value was immeasurably high. He had not expected Lavia to possess 2 of them. Lavia inquired. We shall certainly emerge victorious in this battle. Gio drew a deep breath. He had not expected the king to bestow 2 forbidden magic scrolls upon him. Under the assault of 2 forbidden spells, that dragon would undoubtedly be unable to withstand the force. Only a fully mature dragon or a dragon king could hope to survive such magic. Ah, that is right. Where is the elf who brought you the news earlier? Thinking of the elf's exquisite face and fair, slender legs, a fire ignited within Lavia's heart. She only met with me once to say that my younger brother had been killed by a black dragon. I am taking my leave, Laura thought, a glimmer of disgust flashing in her eyes. This repulsive man even dares to harbor lecherous thoughts toward Dilia. If it were not for the need to borrow his power to exact her revenge, she would not wish to spend even a single moment with such a piece of trash. What a pity, I had initially thought of inviting her to my estate as a guest. Lavia shook his head in disappointment. City Lord Gio, arrange lodgings for us, and while you are at it, assemble the troops. Tomorrow we shall set out to face this black dragon. Lavia waved his hand. Receiving the command, the city lord cupped his hands in salute before issuing the orders down the line. The atmosphere throughout the city of Callier began to grow tense. The following morning, in the square of Callier City, hundreds of warriors clad in heavy silver armor gathered, and among them a few minor mages were interspersed. Lavia, Laura, and Gio stood at the highest point of the plaza. Lavia intended to deliver an encouraging speech before the battle to bolster morale, but the words faltered upon his lips. Gio perceived Lavia's awkwardness and shook his head in secret. Could His Majesty truly intend to bequeath the kingdom to such a person? It was said that the king had only one son, while all the other royal offspring were princesses. Today we face a critical mission. The eradication of the wicked dragon within the corrosive swamp, Gio declared in a thunderous voice. As his words rang out, the soldiers below could no longer maintain their composure. What kind of jest is this? How are we mere soldiers expected to contend with such a malevolent dragon? Are we being sent merely as fodder? The terrifying shadow of the black dragon from the previous encounter remained etched deep within the minds of the men. We have His Highness Lavia, the king's son, to guide us. He has brought with him powerful warriors and mages. We shall undoubtedly overcome the evil dragon. And by then every one of you shall be hailed as a dragon slayer. Hearing this, a glimmer of hope sparked. Could they truly become dragon slayers? The eyes of some soldiers began to ignite with fervor. Those who return from this expedition shall each receive 1 gold coin with additional rewards distributed based on the number of foes vanquished. Gio stated, 1 gold coin. On this continent, the purchasing power of a single gold coin is not insignificant. An average family would struggle to accumulate a single gold coin in an entire year. These words from Gio provided the soldiers with exactly what they needed. It was an immense incentive, potent enough for them to risk their very lives. Meanwhile, in the bone-corroding swamp, the Black Dragon Lady remained in a deep slumber atop her hoard of treasures, entirely oblivious to the fact that others were plotting to slay her, while I remained immersed in my own research of magic. Outside, there were also Hinna, the persistent pursuer, and Amelie. By combining earth vein tremors with exploration spells, it seemed I was finally capable of surveying the ores deep beneath the earth. As my understanding of the banquet deepened, I began to prepare by combining various ingredients. Furthermore, the ingredients required for future banquets would undoubtedly increase in both quantity and quality. I had to experiment constantly to achieve better combinations. However, the incessant growling echoing from the mountain range interrupted my train of thought. What was happening? Frustrated, I emerged from the dragon sand cave. Outside, a vast human army had arrived. It was the same group as before. They had entered the forest under the banner of dragon slaying. Hannah looked incredibly tense. Slaying the dragon? I was filled with a sense of doubt. If they truly intended to slay the dragon, why hadn't they done so earlier? During their last encounter, they were humiliated by the Black Dragoness, trampled into the earth, yet they failed to kill her. However, since these men dared to shout such slogans, it meant they likely possessed a certain level of confidence that they could triumph over the Black Dragoness. This was not a favorable development for me. Although the Black Dragoness did not entirely fulfill the responsibilities of a mother, she had previously provided me with a safe haven. Mighty human experts and other formidable magical beasts were filled with fear. They did not dare to enter the corrosive swamp because of the Black Dragoness's sheer power. This afforded both her and me a great deal of security. As long as one did not court death, one would not perish. As for the matter of hunting young dragons, at worst, one could simply survive by eating dirt. The black dragon whelps would not care about such things, unlike the red dragons, who were miserable without meat. Your Highness, this course of action is not wise. Geo watched as hundreds of soldiers chanted dragon-slaying slogans, marching forward with steady resolve. Originally, he had planned to lure the black dragon out and allow Lavia to launch a sneak attack with a forbidden spell to eliminate it. But to demonstrate his power in front of that woman, this fellow had decided to make a grand display and confront the black dragon head-on. We are the regular army of the Kale Kingdom. What does a cowardly sneak attack matter? Lavia looked at Laura behind her and spoke solemnly, as if such an action would perfectly display his masculine grandeur. Laura had not expected this man to be so unreliable, yet she still smiled and said, "His Highness is correct. We shall take this opportunity to let everyone on the continent witness the might of the KD Kingdom." And just as they had anticipated, the mother dragon was provoked by these individuals while the soldiers continued to shout their slogans. A massive shadow soared from the distant swamp. The 16-meter-long frame of the dragon matriarch appeared like a small mountain soaring above the heads of these soldiers. "Wretched humans, do you dare to disturb the great black dragon matriarch once more?" Endless streams of corrosive acid rained from the heavens. Some soldiers had no time to react before their bodies were instantly liquefied. "Damn it, someone help me." One soldier, his face dissolving from the acid, clawed at his own features in agony, inadvertently gouging out his own eyes. Their armor proved entirely futile against the dragon breath of a mature black dragon. "Goddess of life, save me. I want to go home. I don't care about the gold anymore." Watching the soldiers below suffer in such tragic, wretched conditions, the black dragon matriarch cruelly opened her jaws to unleash a dense mist. The black dragon matriarch had invoked her draconic incantations. Within this bone-corroding marsh, countless toxic miasmas lay in wait. Under the influence of her magic, these vapors surged toward the soldiers like predatory monsters devouring flesh and blood. Following the initial barrage of dragon breath, the soldiers had yet to recover before they were completely engulfed by the toxic miasma. From within the thick fog emerged countless ragged earth dwarves, dire wolves, and other ferocious beasts. These minions of the black dragon matriarch had long since adapted to the toxic miasma of the bone-corroding marsh. Thus, they moved through the gas as if they were fish in water, slaughtering lives at will. Some even began to consume the human soldiers raw. The black dragon matriarch descended, hovering directly above Geo and his companions. "Humans, you shall pay the price." In her eyes, the outcome of this battle was already set in stone. Infinite dragon might descended upon Geo and his companions. This was the absolute suppression of bloodlines. Although the two warriors beside Geo were desperate to flee, they remained steadfast, guarding Lavia. This was their duty, while Lavia herself was trembling, nearly paralyzed with terror. "Your Highness, use the forbidden spell," Laura urged frantically. "Right, yes, the forbidden spell." Lavia hurriedly retrieved an earthen yellow scroll and began to channel her magical energy to activate it. As her mana flowed, the surrounding earth elements gathered, causing the black dragon matriarch to sense that something was amiss. She lunged toward them, unleashing a torrent of breath, but as the acid reached them, it was halted by a semi-transparent barrier. The expensive enchanted artifacts on Lavia's person were finally proving their worth. At that same moment, I suddenly looked up toward the sky. Jenna and Illy also looked up, but they could see nothing at all. "Shilong, what is the matter?" Hannah asked, her voice filled with concern. The earth elements in the surroundings had become unstable. It appeared that some form of magic was at work. Before I could even finish my sentence, countless meteorites wreathed in flames rained down from the heavens. The entire bone-corroding swamp, including the adjacent forest, was swallowed by the descent. This was a forbidden spell, meteor rain. I had seen it referenced in magic scrolls before, though they lacked the actual spell diagrams and incantations. Furthermore, the mana currently flowing through my body was insufficient to cast magic of this magnitude. Realizing the situation had turned dire, I immediately began to retreat toward the distance. "Salong, wait for us." Fenya and Emily scrambled to follow close behind. I chose not to take flight. With countless massive meteorites plummeting from the sky, taking to the air now would be no different than courting death. Within the forest, both the human soldiers and the kin of the Black Dragoness wore expressions of utter despair. They had no time to evade the onslaught. After shattering a meteorite with a single swipe of her claw, the Black Dragoness glared fiercely at Dio and his companions in the distance. "You wretched creature daring to use a forbidden spell," she roared, though several of her scales had been cracked by the impact. "Your Highness, your forbidden spell is a wide-area meteor rain. Why did you not warn us beforehand?" Dio watched in agony as soldiers in the distance were crushed into pulp by the falling rocks, leaving not a single survivor. Had he known the specific forbidden spell was to be used, he never would have brought his men into this fray. This was clearly nothing more than a pointless sacrifice. It is obvious that utilizing Meteor Rain was the correct choice. Dio, do you dare to question my judgment? Lavia stared at the enraged Dio with a look of visible disdain. He is merely a lord of a minor town. These are just a handful of soldiers. To perish on the path of dragon slaying is their honor. Once we have slain the dragon and secured its treasure, we can recruit as many soldiers as we desire, Lavia remarked, her eyes fixed upon the black dragoness as she struggled against the bombardment. Dio boiled with rage, yet he found himself utterly powerless to act. However, Meteor Rain was a wide-area spell. It seemed incapable of killing the black dragoness, dealing only superficial damage. Laura, standing nearby, hurried to pacify the rising tension. She spoke, indeed, Meteor Rain is the single target damage output is not particularly high. Do not forget that I still possess another forbidden magic scroll. Lavia urged, Your Highness, hurry. That black dragon is charging directly toward us. A warrior shouted in haste. At that moment, the female black dragon was busy fending off a barrage of falling meteorites. As she flew toward Lavia, the onlookers watched as Lavia unleashed her final forbidden magic scroll, summoning a high-tier fire elemental. As the scroll was activated, the group felt an overwhelming surge of light and infinite heat radiating outward. The female black dragon had just reached them when a massive fireball struck her, sending her hurtling backward. She slammed heavily against the cliffside. Then, a creature composed entirely of fire emerged. A towering humanoid figure manifested in the sky. It was the source of the fireball. Destroy her, Lavia commanded with growing excitement. The female black dragon shook her head, letting out a thunderous roar at the fire elemental. Black dragons naturally prefer water. They harbor an intense aversion to fire attribute attacks. The female black dragon looked down to see the scales on her body scorched to the point of cracking. She lashed out with her tail, but it passed straight through the creature. Her physical strike dealt no damage whatsoever. It is futile. The fire elemental was virtually immune to all physical assaults. Laura shook her head. Your Highness, as far as I am aware, once a fire elemental is summoned, its duration is limited. Furthermore, this specific fire elemental appears far more potent than those described in legends. The mana infused within the scroll is sufficient to sustain this fire elemental for at least 15 minutes, which is more than enough time for it to slay the black dragon. Moreover, this is no ordinary fire elemental, but a fire elemental lord. Lavia looked at Laura as she explained. On the other side, the black dragoness had been on the defensive from the very beginning. The peerless physical constitution of a true dragon proved useless against this adversary, and her dragon language magic failed to inflict significant damage. To make matters worse, Leo and 2 other Tier 8 warriors were lying in wait nearby. If this battle were to continue, the black dragoness would almost certainly face defeat. The black dragoness was well aware of this, yet the prospect of abandoning all her treasures and fleeing the territory left her deeply conflicted. She was torn between her pride and the reality of the situation. The others also began to notice the exhaustion setting in for the black dragon. Everyone, stay vigilant, do not let her escape. Black Dragon, I offer you one final chance. Submit to me and form a contract. You will have a much brighter future. Lavia spoke with arrogance. It would be even better if I could subjugate this mature black dragon. The black dragon lady glanced at Lavia as if looking at a fool, then continued to contend with the fire elemental lord before her. This opponent's techniques were a hard counter to the black dragon lady. She had attempted several times to bypass the fire elemental to strike him down. Lavia and his companions remained blocked. There were 2 8th-tier warriors and Dio, an 8th-tier mage. The light attribute magic prevented the black dragon lady from closing the distance, and as no one paid any heed to Lavia, he began to feel slightly unsettled. In the eyes of a dragon, humans are merely ants upon the earth. How could she ever accept a human as her master? Even a mature metallic dragon would not casually submit to a master. The black dragon lady, seeing the wounds upon her body accumulating, made her choice. She began to take flight toward the bone-corroding swamp. The water element is abundant there, which would significantly dampen the fire elemental's power. The fire elemental is pursuing. Do not let it escape. Seeing this, Lavia hurriedly shouted, Give chase! The group quickly pursued her into the distance. A patch of earth beside the bone-corroding swamp suddenly split open. 2 Hyana and Aimee crawled out from within. The moment the meteor shower descended, I realized there was no escaping it. Thus, I decisively used earth attribute magic to swiftly carve out a deep pit. Hyana and Aimee struggled desperately to squeeze inside. Afterward, they reinforced the surrounding earth with stone shield techniques, managing to withstand the onslaught. I knew that the black dragon lady's fate was grim this time. I only wondered whether this forbidden spell was cast by a mage or unleashed from a forbidden scroll, or perhaps it was the moment the 3 dragons appeared in the distance. Far away in the bone-corroding swamp, the black dragon lady, covered in wounds, soared into the sky, ascending toward the clouds. Behind her, a fire elemental lord, now significantly reduced in size, also surged from the water. Looking at the shrunken fire elemental lord, the black dragon lady revealed a cunning smile. His magical energy was nearly depleted. Just moments ago in the swamp, she had utilized the environment and water attribute magic to inflict grievous wounds upon the fire elemental. Now the creature was severely injured, all thanks to that foolish human. Under normal circumstances, a fire elemental would never choose such a disadvantageous location to fight, yet that foolish human insisted on ordering it to advance deep into the swamp. You of the kingdom, prepare yourselves to face my wrath. Having delivered her biting words, the black dragon lady immediately departed. Pursue her at once. Lavia commanded the two 8th tier warriors beside him, to which they replied, Your Highness, she can fly. We have yet to reach the Saint Realm, therefore flight remains beyond our capabilities. One of the warriors spoke up, noting that those who have not attained the Saint Realm possess no method to fly, at most being able to use battle aura to glide. Damn it. Lavia did not expect this black dragon to be so cunning. The fire elemental currently has no way to pursue the black dragon lady. Observing Laura's disappointment, Lavia gritted his teeth and produced 2 scrolls. These are windwalking scrolls which will allow you all to fly. Pursue that black dragon for me. These were the most precious items he possessed, excluding the forbidden scroll. The forbidden scroll was a gift from his father, while the windwalking scrolls were meant for his own preservation. As you command. Upon seeing this, the 2 warriors accepted the scrolls. These standard scrolls do not possess the same restrictions as forbidden ones and can be activated directly using battle aura. A pair of ethereal azure wings manifested behind them, and they took flight. They proceeded to chase after the black dragon lady. City Lord Geo, you must also go. It is time for you to exert yourself. Lavia looked toward Geo at his side and remarked, thinking to himself that this old man was slacking off, wondering if he truly believed he could remain unnoticed. Understood, Your Highness. Geo replied helplessly, watching the black dragon lady from afar. He sighed, noting that the black dragon lady had completely forgotten about her and the 3 children. Such behavior was truly irresponsible. At that moment, the fire elemental stood foolishly to the side, then suddenly looked toward me. I immediately felt a sense of unease. Why look in this direction from such a distance? Lavia and the fire elemental shared a telepathic bond, and he became aware of what the fire elemental had discovered. The black dragon whelps capture them at once. Lavia exclaimed in delight, noting that a true dragon whelp's value is immeasurable, to the point that it could serve as the foundation for an entire kingdom. Scatter and flee. I looked at the fire elemental charging toward us without cause and said, So long, you go too. Hannah tried to speak, but I interrupted. Enough nonsense. Split up. As I spoke, I took to the skies myself. My capacity to escape while airborne is certainly far greater than that of the 2 dragon sisters who cannot fly. Hannah and Amelie were forced to flee toward the bone-corroding swamp, taking the eldest dragon with them. Lavia watched me among the 3 young dragons and shouted. He felt that I looked the most formidable, and as such, damn it, I watched the fire elements hurtling toward him. Several fireballs detonated against the black dragon maiden, but my flight maneuvers have yet to reach such proficiency. Although I managed to evade a few, one still struck its mark. I examined my scales, my eyes gleaming, noting only a few scorched marks upon them. The damage was not as severe as I had anticipated. Though my defenses were pierced, it remained endurable. Such minor wounds could be mended by my predator talent, recovering naturally thanks to the true dragon physique. I observed the fire element. It had been diminished significantly, its power appearing greatly reduced. The fire element unleashed 2 chains of flame that collided with my form. My body was slammed into the earth, carving out a deep crater. You cannot escape. Submit and become my mount. Lavia declared in a state of extreme exhilaration. Letting the larger one escape while capturing the smaller one is still a profitable outcome. The smaller one is far easier to tame. Who gave you the delusion that you have already captured me? I crawled up from the earth, my vertical golden pupils glaring fixedly at Lavia and Laura. My form was not as massive as the black dragoness, yet my colossal wings spread wide, making me appear truly imposing. It was only then that Lavia remembered he had no guards remaining beside him and Laura. Quickly, inflict heavy wounds upon him. Lavia sensed that the life force of the fire elemental leader was rapidly waning. The fire elemental leader continued its assault. I spat a mouthful of acid in retaliation, but the damage inflicted upon it was severely limited. I realized that resorting to physical attacks against such a construct would result in negligible damage. Therefore, I did not foolishly lunge forward to rend it with fangs and claws, but instead cast my gaze toward Lavia and Laura standing off to the side, as if they had discerned my true intentions. The 2 of them scrambled in a panic to hide behind the fire elemental. Lavia, you and the fire elemental must deal with this black dragon. He is no simple beast. I am a prince. How could I involve myself in such crude acts of slaughter? Lavia shook his head frantically. Laura cursed Lavia inwardly as a useless coward. Were it not for the fact that the king had only one son, and that all others were daughters, he would never have been permitted to remain the heir. I turned my head, fully focusing my intent upon the fire elemental before me. He spoke quietly, the feast begins, and immediately an intense, insatiable hunger consumed his entire body. I discovered that with the stacking of the layers of the devouring feast, this hunger grew increasingly ferocious, driving me toward an uncontrollable urge to consume everything in sight. The fire elemental before me emanated an intoxicating, pungent scent that made my mouth water, and unable to restrain myself any longer, I lunged toward the fire elemental lord. The fire elemental once again extended 4 crimson-red strands, chains lashing out toward me, yet I ignored them entirely, charging forward to devour the fire elemental lord. Has this black dragon lost its mind? Does it actually intend to bite a fire elemental to death? Lavia expressed her doubts. Surely it could not be that simple. Laura watched my savage display, a flicker of unease stirring within her. She glanced at Lavia beside her and slowly took a step back. At that very moment, I clamped my jaws onto the arm of the fire elemental, tore it off with force, and swallowed it whole. How is this possible? Lavia stood agape, struck by astonishment. The fire elemental is nothing but a manifestation of flame. How could its arm be severed and consumed? I sensed the progress of the devouring feast, the hunger within me intensifying even further. The application of this feast is exceptionally effective. Ordinarily, even if I could bite into fire, it would be to no avail. But under the enhancement of the feast, I can inflict true damage upon the elemental. Its immunity to physical harm has been rendered void. The fire elemental let out a roar, and the flames upon its body surged violently, rushing to the site of its severed limb to regenerate the arm, yet its physical form shrunk noticeably in size. Seeing this, I lunged forward to tear it apart. The fire elemental desperately soared into the air to evade me, but I gave chase. Amidst the roars, I consumed the fire elemental piece by piece, and as the size of the elemental continued to wither, the progress of my feast steadily climbed higher, 80%, 83%. Lavia realized this could not continue. If we lose, there will be no chance for us to escape. Laura watched as the fire elemental, once dominant, now grew weak and helpless, feeling a sense of utter frustration. If not for this fool's incompetent command from the start, the fire elemental would never have fallen into such a state. Laura, set your heart at ease. I possess a spatial teleportation magic scroll. My father gave this to me to ensure my survival. Lavia continued to watch the battle between the black dragon and the fire elemental in the distance. Witnessing the clash between the black dragon and the fire elemental, Aura let out a cry of astonishment at the spatial teleportation scroll. Spatial magic is inherently far rarer than any other form of magic, let alone being crafted into a scroll. Even a ducal house like theirs does not possess a single one. May I see it? Laura asked gently. Of course you may. Lavia sensed both admiration and jealousy in Laura's eyes. At this moment, the fire elemental had contracted to its absolute limit. The black dragon looked at the entity, which was roughly 1/3 the size of its own body, and the fire elemental lunged forward to seize it directly, before stuffing it straight into its mouth as if it were consuming a meal. Countless flames erupted across the fire elemental's body. The flames attempted to incinerate the colossal jaws, but in the end, they were swallowed piece by piece by the black dragon. Once finished, he let out a satisfied burp, and then I looked toward the two people present. Lavia was completely stunned. Laura, let us go quickly. But when he turned his head, he discovered that Laura was already more than 10 meters behind him, and furthermore, she had already activated the spatial teleportation scroll. Laura, what are you doing? We are going together. Lavia lunged forward frantically, but Laura's eyes were filled with cold indifference. Lavia, this spatial teleportation scroll is of low quality. It can only transport one person. Bringing more would lead to unforeseen consequences. I am sorry, Lavia. I know you love me. Did you not say you would do anything for me? Damn it. Stop this at once. Lavia's eyes had turned bloodshot. After the black dragon finished consuming the fire elemental, the feast was drawing to a close. He immediately lunged toward Laura, his speed immeasurably faster than Lavia's, yet he was still a step too late as ripples manifested in the space around her. Laura's silhouette began to fade, but I reached her position at the final fleeting moment. As I swung my razor-sharp claws, leaving behind a severed pale arm at the scene, I exhaled 2 streams of white mist from my nostrils. In the end, I still allowed that woman to escape. Meanwhile, Lavia stood to the side, completely stunned. He stood there blankly, his hopes and thoughts reduced to mere ashes. It was not until my shadow loomed over him that he finally snapped back to reality. Lord Black Dragon, I was wrong. Please, give me one chance, a chance to redeem myself. A look of madness flickered in Lavia's eyes. If I grant you a chance to live, what do I gain in return? Observing his posture, it seemed this sycophant had truly awakened, though it appeared his awakening had come far too late. I am the kingdom's only prince and its sole heir. I can find a way to assassinate the king. Once I ascend to the throne, I will exhaust the entire kingdom's resources to pay tribute to you daily. Lavia gradually calmed down, while a glint of coldness flashed in my eyes. You speak very persuasively. I looked up, a glimmer of hope flared in Lavia's eyes, but my next words plunged him into utter despair. But why should I trust a man who intends to kill his own father? I said coldly. No. Why? Are you not a wicked dragon? Is this not what wicked dragons enjoy the most? Lavia cried out in desperation. I offered him no further response. I exhaled a torrent of acid directly upon him. Lavia was eroded into dust in his final moments of despair. I lowered my head to retrieve Lavia's magical artifact, then quickly took flight toward the distance. After flying for several minutes, I discovered a cave. A single breath was enough to kill its original occupant. A savage bear blocked the cave entrance, but I could no longer suppress my fatigue and closed my eyes. Then I drifted into that familiar pitch-black void. Having just concluded the feast, I had been forcibly suppressing the urge to undergo metamorphosis. The materials for this banquet were essentially provided by that elemental lord. Therefore, I was quite expectant regarding the changes I was about to undergo. Once again, I witnessed my own evolution from the perspective of an outsider. First, my body gradually grew larger, and then fiery red motes of light began to converge around me. A vast multitude of these fiery red motes gathered about my form. They gradually merged into my body. Simultaneously, I discovered the base of my dragon horns. Upon them appeared a series of dark crimson veins. I then opened my eyes in the darkness, observing the changes within my physique. This time, my pupils had transformed into a vivid blood-red hue. My body size had reached 7 meters, and the scales covering me had become even darker and more profound. Immediately after, he looked toward the Saw Long Hun 75 interface. The cooldown period was 4 days. The feast cooldown was also 4 days. Talent 1. Predator, I can restore health and energy by slaying my enemies. The value of the recovery is determined by the target's life force and energy reserves. Talent 2, Earth Elemental Magic Affinity. I have obtained a formidable aptitude for earth-based magic. Talent 3, I have attained a powerful affinity for the fire element. The amount added this time seems slightly less than the previous instance. The feast's cooldown also shifted to 4 days, though I was not particularly surprised by this newly acquired third talent. After all, the Earth Elemental talent acquired previously had followed the same pattern. It was a pity that no other talents had manifested. I am well aware that the foundation of my power remains the feast. As for magic and similar abilities, they serve merely as supplements. Regarding health points and the cooldown duration, I have formed several hypotheses, though nothing is certain. Further experimentation is required. Lost in these thoughts, I exhaled a breath. It remained the acidic liquid characteristic of a black dragon, though its corrosiveness seemed to have intensified. While slightly disappointed by the lack of fire breath, as I had always yearned to be a dragon capable of breathing flame, I accepted it. Among the chromatic dragons, the breath of the red dragon is true dragon fire. This type of dragon fire is quite tyrannical. As one ages, its destructive power grows increasingly formidable. The fire breath of certain ancient red dragons is so potent that even entities within the fire elemental plane struggle to withstand it. From this, one can discern the sheer dominance of such a breath. However, fire breath and fire magic are fundamentally different. The former is a primal instinct, whereas the latter requires the casting of spells. A few days later, the kingdom of Dio was in turmoil, for the king's only son, Lavia, had perished during a dragon hunt. It is said that when his remains were discovered, they were in a horrific state. Initially, the king refused to believe that those mangled remains, eroded beyond recognition, could truly be his son Lavia. Yet, after repeated examinations and confirmations by the royal mages, it was proven that the remains were indeed Prince Lavia, having been consumed by the black dragon's acidic breath. They had been struck head-on and suffered an agonizing death. The king was so overcome with fury and grief that he collapsed on the spot. Upon regaining consciousness, the king, in a fit of uncontrollable rage, ordered the immediate execution of the 2 Tier 8 warriors who had accompanied Prince Lavia that day. The 2 Tier 8 warriors who had accompanied him. Just as they were about to execute Leo, the Lord of Callery City, Leo's master and a saint-level light mage, intervened. It was only through this intervention that Leo's life was spared. Later, after Laura, the daughter of Duke Aura, was recovered, the truth finally began to surface. According to Laura, there was actually a younger black dragon present at the scene. They were not facing only the matriarch of the black dragons. While all the warriors were engaged in battle against the black dragon matriarch, that cunning young black dragon seized the opportunity to launch a sneak attack on Laura, costing her an arm. It cost her an arm. Meanwhile, Prince Lavia, in an attempt to save his beloved Laura, gave his space teleportation scroll to her, choosing to face the black dragon alone. After recounting these events, Laura was overcome with grief and collapsed, even calling out Lavia's name in her dreams. It left onlookers unable to help but sigh at the sincerity of their love. Your Highness, Prince Lavia is truly dead. In a luxurious manner, a blonde maid turned to a beautiful red-haired woman and spoke. Are you certain? The red-haired woman stood up, raising an eyebrow. A charming mole sat at the corner of her eye. Furthermore, her physique was exquisite, her stature striking, complemented by an aura of distinct authority. She looked down at the maid with a sense of superiority, exerting immense pressure upon her. Yes, it is the truth. The royal mages have verified multiple times that Prince Lavia sacrificed himself to save that girl, Laura, leaving behind only a few fragments of bone eroded beyond recognition. The maid trembled as she spoke. Do I believe Lavia is the type of person to sacrifice himself for another? Sophia smiled. Sophia looked toward her father. The king, I wonder what father will do now. The red-haired woman was none other than Sophia, the third princess of the Dio kingdom. This year, she even attained the 7th Circle Mage realm. Yet, being a woman, she is barred from inheriting the throne. The king's only son has perished. On the surface, the entire kingdom remains peaceful. In truth, the entire kingdom is merely a facade of tranquility. Beneath the surface, dark currents are surging violently. I observed cautiously from within the forest. There was a disturbance near the bone-corroding swamp. Hundreds of soldiers equipped with elite gear stood guard nearby. The masks they wore appeared to filter the surrounding miasma. I watched as the soldiers escorted wagons laden with gold and jewels. After all, not everyone possesses spatial artifacts. I took a closer look and realized there were no weapons among the cargo. The powerful enchantments I had previously witnessed in the dragon's lair were absent. It seems the black dragoness had already made off with a portion of the treasures. It is no simple task for these soldiers to transport such riches out of that place. The lair of the black dragoness lies beneath the swamp. The soldiers sent inside cannot be mere weaklings, for the lingering dragon aura of the black dragoness still permeates the cavern. A common soldier would be so terrified upon entering that he would lose all composure. That is why it has taken them days to haul the treasures to the surface. My burning red eyes remained fixed upon the final wagon. Resting atop it was a massive black bundle within which the outline of an axe was vaguely discernible. Like a seasoned hunter, I waited with unwavering patience. Within the caravan, 2 formidable 9th Circle mages stood guard. I noticed these 2 had stealthily concealed some of the treasures, while the surrounding soldiers chose to turn a blind eye. Furthermore, there were elite warriors stationed with heavy crossbows and other weaponry. Clearly, they are bracing themselves against a potential retaliation from the black dragoness. Given this defensive formation, I cannot simply charge in with my current strength, so I resolve to rely on strategy. After all, in the eyes of everyone on this continent, North dragons are known to be the most vile and cunning of all true dragons. They will stop at nothing, employing any means necessary to secure their prey or claim their treasures. Before long, night began to fall, and they had yet to clear the bone-corroding swamp. The wagons are heavily burdened, and the terrain here is treacherous. Although the horses pulling the carriages possess a trace of Earth Dragon bloodline, granting them strength far exceeding that of ordinary steeds, they are still struggling immensely. Let us rest for a moment. This wretched place is truly detestable. Ignorant fool, one of the 2 level 9 wood element mages muttered, wiping the sweat from his brow. The water element mage Ban shook his head. This bone-corroding swamp is far too perilous, especially once night falls. We must escape this dense forest at all costs. Rot gave a bitter smile, gesturing toward the convoy. Look at them. Do you truly believe these warriors have any strength left? And looked into the distance, seeing nothing but exhausted soldiers gasping for air. Several carriages had sunk deep into the mire, and the warriors were struggling with every ounce of remaining strength to pull them free. Their heavy armor and weaponry, once their protection, had now become an unbearable burden. Ban sighed. Very well. Rot shouted, everyone, set up camp and rest. The men exhaled in relief, for they had reached the absolute limit of their endurance. This journey had proven far more grueling than any battle. Just as they gathered firewood to prepare a meal, they remained oblivious to the pair of crimson eyes watching them from the shadows of the forest. Seeing these men utterly drained, I knew the opportunity had arrived. As one soldier unbuckled his heavy armor, preparing to rest, a razor-sharp claw erupted from the darkness, crushing his skull instantly. After I followed suit and dispatched the remaining stragglers, I approached the final carriage and spat out Lavia's ring-shaped magic artifact that I had claimed earlier. Lavia's artifact held nothing of great significance, though the internal space spanned roughly a dozen cubic meters. Under the guidance of my mental power, the supplies from the carriages were absorbed into the artifact, but as soon as the collection was complete, an enraged shout echoed from afar. I knew someone had triggered a defensive formation on the carriages, but the objective had already been met. The remaining treasures were of no consequence now. Before the others could arrive, I exhaled a spray of acidic venom, dousing 7 or 8 of the carriages. Then, taking advantage of the cover of night, I departed. When the 2 mages arrived with their warriors in tow, only a pile of ruins remained. I carried my spoils far from the bone-corroding swamp, heading toward the north. There, the vast forests and sparse population provided the perfect environment for me to develop. I had also searched for Mei Li and Shinna, the 2 young dragons, but found nothing. I know not where they have hidden themselves, but I wish them fortune. Reflecting on this, I found a random cave upon a cliffside and ventured inside. There were no living creatures within, only a few scattered feathers. It seemed some avian creature had previously claimed this as a nesting ground. After finding a clean spot, I sat down and began to examine the fruits of my labor. I opened the magic artifact, and a mound of goods materialized before my eyes. First, there was a small fortune in gold, silver, and other similar treasures. Among them, the item I valued most was that massive battle axe. Back in the Dragon Mother's lair, I had desperately wanted to use it as an ingredient for my feast. But due to the imposing presence of the Black Dragon Lady, I had to temporarily set that thought aside. Now, however, it finally belonged to me. This pile of gold and silver, combined with the other weapons and this powerful battle axe, should certainly be enough to commence my next feast. Nevertheless, the more I have, the better. I decided to head out and hunt down some magical beasts to fill the remaining void in my ingredients. No sooner said than done. I flapped my wings, took flight, and began searching for magical beasts in the vicinity. Certain magical beasts emit a distinct Gendon-inducing aura to mark their territory. For me, these were the most obvious targets. Without much effort, I captured a wind-blast wolf and a lion-tailed scorpion. These 2 beasts were monarchs within their own territories, but here I have virtually no natural predators. I am the absolute apex of the food chain. Gazing at the carcasses of the beasts, the gold, and the weapons before me, my crimson eyes glowed with unmistakable anticipation. The feast began. I first swallowed both beasts, hide and bone alike. Next came the massive battle axe. The quality of the axe was surely high, but under the enhancement of my feast, my teeth had become extraordinarily sharp. The massive axe was consumed piece by piece. As I ate, I also consumed some of the gold and silver as a side dish. In my estimation, materials like gold and silver were even more suited for this feast than the meat of the magical beasts. I ate the weapons alongside the gold and silver. Truth be told, it genuinely felt like I was indulging in a grand banquet. I know not when it happened, but once every last scrap of material had been consumed, the feast finally drew to a close. Within that pitch-black void, I once again bore witness to my own evolution. Aside from my physical size, this transformation seemed to focus primarily on refining my teeth and claws. I observed my dragon claws growing increasingly thick and powerful, the metallic sheen upon them becoming ever more pronounced, the muscles in my jaw and forelimbs growing more dense, and my entire body expanding in stature. Finally, when his body size swelled to 9 meters, it ceased expanding. Saw Long, health points at 210, banquet stages at 6, and the banquet cooldown is 7 days. First innate talent, Predator. I can restore my health and energy by slaying my enemies. The amount of recovery is determined by the health and energy reserves of the fallen foe. Second innate talent, Affinity with Earth Attribute Magic. I have attained a formidable talent for Earth Magic. Third innate talent, Affinity with Fire Attribute Magic. I have attained a formidable talent for fire magic. Fourth innate talent, armor piercing. My razor-sharp claws and teeth will inflict upon my enemies even greater damage. I examined my status board. It was exactly as I had anticipated. The attribute of that nameless weapon must have been armor piercing. The banquet has integrated this trait into my own physical form. I swiped my claws gently, and the stone wall beside me was sliced through as easily as if it were tofu. Before this banquet began, I could cut through stone with ease, but now it has become even effortless. I unfurled my wings and emerged from the temporary cave. Gazing at the tiny shrubs and trees below, a surge of heroic ambition suddenly stirred within me. Now in this world, I can finally claim to possess the strength to defend myself. I have arrived in this world, spirits and monsters alike. Wait for me. I flapped my once and departed, ascending into the heavens. I stood upon the earth, channeling earth magic and earth pulse to sense the movements beneath the soil. Several days have passed, and I have no inkling of my current location. Everywhere I look, there is nothing but endless, wretched trees. He had flown for 3 days, yet he had failed to escape the forest. This reality left him feeling a wave of deep frustration. This cursed inherited memory did not even deign to provide him with a map, so he killed a few nameless birds in passing. Afterward, I descended to the ground, drinking the blood of the birds to quench my thirst. For the sake of safety, every time I landed, I would cast a spell. I utilized Earth Pulse to briefly inspect the situation beneath the earth. This was to guard against any nameless creatures attempting a sneak attack, much like the abyssal devilfish of the deep sea. However, this time, it seems I've discovered something of value. To confirm my findings, I also employed a detection spell. The detection technique is a dragon heritage magic capable of appraising almost any material. In truth, it was topaz. My heart was filled with profound astonishment. Topaz resembles a golden-colored jade. This mineral is yellow-green with high transparency, and its texture is incredibly hard, making it highly prized by the dragon race. Deep beneath this earth lies an entire vein of topaz, estimated to be several hundred tons. This is considered a massive deposit among mineral veins. To any true dragon, this represents an immense fortune. I wanted to look up to the sky and let out a roar. Wouldn't these minerals make for excellent cooking ingredients? Damn it, every time there is a banquet, I want to make use of them immediately. It is much like playing games in my past life, seeing my health bar skyrocket while my enemies barely scratch me. That feeling is truly exhilarating. Although I am a true dragon and treasure my wealth dearly, I am unlike other dragons, who pile their riches in caves just to achieve psychological satisfaction. To me, only when it is consumed does treasure truly become a treasure. At this very moment, I sensed a ripple of magical energy. I sighed. I never expected that while I was focused on surveying the underground, searching for treasures, I failed to pay attention to the surroundings, allowing other creatures to mark me as their prey. You lowly vermin, show yourselves. I stared into the surroundings, and under my gaze the air began to shift. Creatures over 2 meters tall appeared before me, surrounding me. They wielded crude weapons, some bone clubs, others wooden staves, and some wore primitive armor upon their bodies. Forest goblins. I recognized this species, their towering stature, fine-framed skin, greenish complexion, and 2 massive fangs. These are the most distinct hallmarks of the forest goblins. It is truly a dragon. A goblin clutching a massive bone club exclaimed in excitement, and it appears to be a juvenile dragon at that. This is the hope for the rise of our vicious tooth tribe. If we are cleansed in dragon blood, the strength of our vicious tooth tribe will undergo a monumental change. I looked carefully at this tribe, which consisted of over 80 members of the forest goblin clan. The forest buffaloes appear remarkably similar to the green-skinned orcs, yet they are fundamentally different. Their hide is naturally a shade of blue. The primary reason they appear green is due to the patches of moss growing across their bodies. I turned my gaze toward 3 female buffaloes in the distance, their stature noticeably smaller than the rest of the herd. While the shamans of the green-skinned orc tribe are summoners, the shamans of the forest buffaloes are the highly gifted females of their kind. The males of the herd are typically the warriors. I did not attempt to take flight, for these females had just cast a spell forbidden to the skies. Attempting to ascend would require a significant expenditure of energy. That brief window would be more than enough for the other buffaloes to launch an assault, and besides, I had no intention of retreating. After all, the massive ore deposit beneath my feet required labor to extract. I had no desire to mine the ore myself. Could these foolish buffaloes truly be preparing to attack a true dragon? My deep, resonant voice echoed forth once more. My tone was entirely different from before. Far removed from the immature chirps of other dragon hatchlings, I unfurled my wings, which were far grander than those of an ordinary dragon, enhancing my imposing presence, then raised my head with an air of defiance, and unleashed the full might of my draconic aura. Several buffaloes nearby felt a crushing pressure weigh upon their hearts. Some could no longer even maintain their grip on their weapons. Sada, the leader of the buffaloes, stared at the creature before him, a realization dawning in his mind. Is a creature of this magnitude something our tribe can possibly contend with? Sada, this may be the only opportunity for our savage tooth tribe to rise to greatness. An elderly, one-eyed buffalo standing beside him observed Sada's hesitation and sighed. I will not surrender. Hearing this, Sada's golden eyes were instantly filled with resolve. A giant dragon is a treasure from head to toe. Its hide can be crafted into the most impenetrable armor. Their fangs and claws can be forged into formidable weapons. Dragon meat can strengthen the body, and dragon blood can even transform ordinary warriors into powerful dragon blood warriors. Warriors, for the sake of our tribe, let us slay this dragon together. Once we obtain the dragon blood, we shall become true dragon blood warriors and know hunger no more. Spurred on by Sada's encouragement, several buffaloes summoned their courage. Under Sada's command, the female dwarf demons began to chant their incantations. Awakening spells, curses, and all manner of dark magic were unleashed upon me. Meanwhile, the other dwarf demon warriors were bolstered by various enhancement spells. This only served to drive them into a frenzy of excitement. More than 10 dwarf demon warriors in the vanguard hurled the bone spears they held. These spears were forged from the sharpest bones of magical beasts, far keener than steel, and were further imbued with dark enchantments. They could already envision this black dragon pierced through by their spears, its scales rent and bleeding, allowing them to rush forward and drink its blood to their heart's content. Yet I faced this barrage of spears without a single movement to evade. As a precaution, I silently cast a hardening spell upon my own hide. I intended to subjugate these dwarf demons with an overwhelming display of dominance. Before the expectant gazes of the dwarf demons, I stood perfectly still. The countless spears failed to even pierce my scales. They simply shattered and clattered to the ground. Is that all you have? I cast a look of disdain upon these dwarf demons. These negative effects had some minor impact, but they were ultimately insignificant to me. Sada drew his own spear. It was a weapon he had crafted from a unique metal taken from a human adventurer he had slain some time ago. The spear struck out toward my head. I opened my jaws and casually bit down on the incoming spear. My crimson eyes locked onto Sada with an icy gaze. The spear was instantly crushed between my teeth and swallowed by the dragon. Is there anything else? You insects, I'll grant you one final opportunity. Show me the true extent of your power. Sada and his kin were paralyzed with shock. Despite the barrage of dark magic and the combined might of their spears, their opponent remained completely unscathed. If dragons were truly this formidable, how did their ancestors manage to slay them hundreds of years ago? Sada began to seriously doubt the legends of dragon slaying passed down by his tribe, suspecting them to be nothing more than exaggerated tales for their own glorification. Seeing them standing there frozen, I spoke with a voice heavy with impatience. It seems you are no longer capable of amusing me. Then die, I will risk everything to kill you. Under the immense pressure, a few dwarf warriors finally snapped. They roared, brandishing their bone clubs as they charged forward. I ignored their futile attacks, my claws snatching one of them in each hand. No, Sada watched the scene unfold, his heart filled with agony. I glanced at Sada, then crushed the upper torsos of the warriors with as much ease as one would crush a tomato. What was it that you just said? I cast the corpse aside and asked, he is not a black dragon. Is the black dragon not supposed to be like this? A Tauran warrior spoke in a booming voice. Respected Lord Black Dragon, it was our evil Fang tribe that offended your majesty this time. We shall offer up all the tribe's treasures to beg for your forgiveness. Sada laid down his weapon and spoke in a servile tone. As the leader of the tribe, he possessed not only combat prowess far superior to the other Tauran, but his intellect was also significantly higher. This black dragon before him had not immediately charged in to slaughter them all, choosing instead to kill only those who had provoked it. This indicated that there was still room for negotiation. Every creature knows that true dragons cherish treasure above all else. Thus, he would offer it all the wealth his tribe had accumulated over the years, even though in truth they did not have much left, for they could simply plunder more from elsewhere later. You claim you can offer me all your wealth, but if I were to slay you all, your treasures would belong to me regardless. Do you truly think a mere offering can compensate for the price of offending a true dragon? I retorted with a sneer. Sada felt the situation becoming difficult to manage. Among the chromatic dragons, the black dragon is infamous for being cunning, deceitful, and base. A red dragon might have been deceived, but with a black dragon there was simply no way to bargain. Then, Lord Black Dragon, what is it that you desire? Sada gritted his teeth and asked, it is not a matter of what I desire. It is a choice between life and death. I stretched my wings, uttering words that made their hair stand on end. Lord Black Dragon, we choose to live. Sada clenched his fists. There is no creature in this world that does not wish to survive. He knew the black dragon before him was about to bare its fangs. I looked at the Tauran leader before me and remarked, you seem to be an intelligent beast. We are more than willing to become your kin, to serve as kin to a great lord. Sada thumped his chest as he spoke, agreeing so quickly. Could there be a hidden conspiracy? I observed these creatures, feeling a sense of unease. In my estimation, they should have resisted until death. I would have then slain this leader and proceeded to establish control over another group of Tauran. But this one yielded too readily. I had just slaughtered his clansmen. Could it be that he is planning to endure humiliation now to seek revenge later? Then tell me, why are you so eager to become my kin? I asked with a mocking tone. Sada had long heard that dragons were temperamental, but only today did he truly grasp the depth of this volatility. Was it not he who just declared that the Zhang-Yi tribe had become his subjects? My lord, your magnificent stature, your imposing appearance, and your overwhelming power have completely conquered the Zhang-Yi tribe. Sada used his limited vocabulary to sing my praises. These forest trolls were inherently of an evil disposition. Pledging allegiance to a more powerful entity was simply the natural order. After all, in these lands, their tribe was far from being the strongest. During this period, they had been locked in constant conflict with other tribes, causing the number of their warriors to plummet. Now with a mighty black dragon having descended upon them, upon reflection, accepting him as their master was not such a poor outcome. At the very least, he could protect their clansmen from being harmed by other creatures. However, the nature of a black dragon is inherently cruel. In the future, he must ensure his clansmen never provoke him, so as to avoid any further harm befalling them. My lord, I beg for your forgiveness for our earlier transgression. Sada had steeled his resolve. He reached out with his finger, gouged out one of his own eyes, and placed it into the palm of his hand. Then he knelt and raised his eye above his head with both hands. Very well, I accept your loyalty. Troll, tell me your name. I looked at Sada and spoke. I could not help but admire his iron will. After all, the agony of such an act was far from trivial. Sada breathed a sigh of relief and signaled to his fellow tribesmen. The female mages dispelled the aerial restriction array, while the male trolls laid down their weapons and knelt upon the ground in unison. The chieftain of the forest troll tribe, Sada, leads all his kin in pledging loyalty to you, my lord. Sada knelt on the ground and declared loudly. I was slightly taken aback by his name, Sada. Is there truly someone with such a name? Yes, my lord, my name is Sada. Sada spoke. Very well, a blockhead is a blockhead. There is nothing wrong with that. Now lead me to your tribe's settlement. I spoke firmly. Sada maintained an exceedingly humble posture. Obeying my master, I followed the group of trolls to a valley. This was the dwelling place of the Zhangyi tribe. Sada had previously dispatched his subordinates to explain the turn of events to those remaining here. Consequently, many of the forest trolls, the elderly, a small green-skinned giant gazed at me with curiosity. This dragon did not seem to resemble the black dragon the clansmen often spoke of. A female giant nearby noticed, tapped the little giant on the head, and pulled it down to kneel alongside her. They understood that everyone must show absolute loyalty to the black dragon standing before them. Under no circumstances must his wrath be provoked. I observed this tribe. The total number of adult warriors was barely 100, while the elderly, women, and children accounted for more than 300 individuals. Naturally, the giant race possesses the potential for universal conscription. Should the tribe face a devastating assault, these elderly, women, and children would all rise as warriors. After all, even a juvenile giant can effortlessly slaughter several grown humans. Great one, I shall immediately command my subordinates to prepare your quarters. Provisions will be delivered as well. Sada noticed my gaze lingering on the little goblins and hurriedly changed the subject. He feared that I might consider using the little goblins as a meal. There is no rush for that. Sada, why does your vicious tooth tribe possess so few warriors? On the journey here, I had realized that Sada was no fool. Yet, for a forest goblin tribe to have over 300 elderly, weak women and children with only 100 adult goblins was concerning. This ratio was highly irregular. Lord Sand Dragon, in the past, our forest goblin warriors were plentiful, but recently a nearby beastman tribe has come into severe conflict with us. We have suffered the loss of many clansmen. Sada sighed, and through his explanation, I finally understood. It turned out that this place, known as the Twilight Forest, was their territory. They had thrived quite well in this region. Game was abundant, and by occasionally plundering merchant caravans, they lived a prosperous life. Adjacent to the Twilight Forest lay a beastman tribe, whose strength was comparable to that of the vicious Tooth tribe. For a long time, the two tribes had no major conflicts and lived in relative harmony. But recently, for reasons unknown, they had begun to repeatedly encroach upon their territory. Numerous major skirmishes had erupted, resulting in heavy losses for both sides. I was just lamenting that my supply of miners seemed insufficient. I had not expected such a discovery. Under Sada's arrangements, I relocated into a massive cavern situated in the deepest part of the valley. This had originally been the sanctuary of the Goblin tribe, and the interior had already been meticulously cleaned by Sada's subordinates. I found myself quite satisfied. Sada also brought forth the treasures that the forest goblins had amassed over the years. I took a brief look. There were over 100 gold coins, alongside a collection of gemstones, armor, weapons, and similar goods. They were stained with dried blood, likely the remnants of merchants or adventurers who had been plundered. This was the extent of the tribe's hoard, and I felt a twinge of disappointment. Compared to the Black Dragon, it was pathetically meager. What is this? I picked up a blue necklace. The magical resonance emanating from this piece was incredibly dense. The centerpiece was crafted from 7 objects resembling blue sapphires. At the base hung a white conch shell which appeared quite exquisite. Lord Sa Long. This is an item we discovered after raiding a merchant caravan some time ago. According to the merchant caravan's leader, this object is known as the Tears of the Sea Demon. It is a magical weapon, yet we were unable to discern how to harness its power. Sada replied, it is because those brats killed them too quickly. Tears of the Sea Demon indeed. I examined the necklace, sensing that this artifact would likely hold great significance for me. Sada dispatched men to the subterranean region we visited previously. There are mineral veins located there, and I expect you to extract as much as possible as soon as possible. I tucked away the Tears of the Sea Demon as I had to prepare for the upcoming banquet. Lord, we forest giants are not particularly skilled in mining operations. Sada said with a troubled expression, if you want them to fight, they excel, but manual labor in the mines is quite difficult for them. Is that so? This is your first task since becoming my subordinates, and you are already claiming you cannot complete it? My gaze carried a dangerous edge. Lord Salong, please rest assured, we guarantee that we will begin extraction as soon as possible. Sada sighed, then hurriedly spoke, then go and carry it out immediately. Understood. After Sada stepped out of the cave, he encountered the elder giant from before. This was Saman, the oldest giant in the tribe. How did it go, Sada? Saman saw Sada furrowing his brows and asked urgently. After Sada recounted my instructions, Saman also fell into deep contemplation. Sada, muster the warriors, prepare the weapons, and prepare to depart. I have an idea. Saman's murky golden eyes brightened. What do you mean by that? Sada asked, his expression filled with surprise. Have you forgotten about our 2 food reserves? Sada laughed and replied, indeed, how could I have overlooked that? The goblins and the gnolls are the most proficient at this task, after all. Sada slapped his own forehead. Deep within the Twilight Forest, there were 2 small tribes, a tribe of goblins and a tribe of gnolls. These 2 tribes were essentially kept by the Sharp-Tooth tribe as a source of rations. Whenever the hunting season became difficult, the Sharp-Tooth tribe would send warriors to capture some goblins and gnolls for consumption. The Sharp-Tooth tribe would never eat the young of the goblins or the gnolls. They too understood the importance of sustainable development. I watched as Sada hurried off, though I paid it little mind. I cared not for what Sada did. Regardless, when the time came, the ore had to be mined for me. I have never been negligent when it comes to the banquet. Thinking of this, I turned my gaze toward the mermaid's tears resting to the side. This object imbued him with a sense of power even greater than the giant axe from before. As expected, the mermaid's tears were the primary material for this undertaking. Combined with some ore and gold coins, the banquet should be more than sufficient. Hurry, all of you. Pick up the pace. Those wretched creatures. The forest warriors were herding the long-eared, green-skinned goblins toward the mine entrance I had discovered earlier. Another group of warriors was escorting a number of gnolls following close behind. The gnolls possessed scaled skin ranging from dark brown to black, small pale horns, glowing eyes, and tails as straight as those of a rat. Respected Master Sada, what is the meaning of this? A goblin, clearly a leader among them, trembled as he looked up at Sada. He wore tattered hide armor. Could it be that they intended to devour them all at once? Sada paid him no heed, instead stepping up onto a high vantage point. Listen well, whether you are gnoll or goblin, our Sharp-Tooth tribe will no longer consume your kind from this day forward. As soon as Sada spoke these words, a great stir rippled through the crowd. The giants were going to stop eating them. Was this truly the truth? Under your feet lies a massive mineral vein. You are required to extract a batch in the shortest time possible. This is your chance to prove your worth, for if you fail to do so— Sada paused for a moment at these words. Master, please rest assured. Mining is our innate gift. We shall come. The goblins grew excited. It turned out that they would truly no longer be eaten. These are your tools. Sada pointed to a pile of white bones on the ground and said, these are the bones of the ferocious beasts our tribe has hunted. Furthermore, you may trade the minerals you mine for meat. 1 portion of meat in exchange for 10 times the amount of ore. Sada said with a pained heart. This was what Saman had instructed him to say. In his view, these lowly creatures did not deserve to consume the fruits of their hunt, but there was no other choice. He could not have these laborers working on empty stomachs. If they missed the deadline set by Lord Salong, Sada dared not imagine the consequences. They and the dogmen charged toward the mine, some returning immediately to scramble for the bone tools. Goblins and dogmen fought fiercely. They were finally going to eat meat, and it was meat provided by the jungle gnomes. The gnomes watched the chaotic scene, compelled to maintain a semblance of order. What excited the jungle gnomes most was that the goblins and dogmen were indeed experts at mining. Before long, pits had appeared all across the ground. The goblins could accurately probe where it was easiest to excavate, how to mine without causing a collapse, and similar technical matters. A short while later, the goblin leader carried several translucent golden ore rocks and approached Sada. Sada looked at the glowing translucent mineral and felt a surge of excitement. Such a beautiful mineral was undoubtedly highly precious. It was no wonder Lord Salong valued it so highly. My lord, I have also excavated minerals. A dogman panting heavily carried a large chunk of ore to Sada's side. Very well, everyone, bring the ore and follow me. Sada waved his hand and said joyfully, as you command. While he arranged the cooking ingredients, Sada led the 2 small figures toward his cave. His attention was entirely focused on the ore upon his back. I did not expect you to have completed the excavation so quickly. I nodded in affirmation. My lord, we recruited the goblins and dogmen to mine together. Sada bowed low and spoke. Meanwhile, the goblin leader and the dogman to the side were astonished. They never imagined that following the jungle gnomes would lead them to a dragon. The dogman could not contain himself. He prostrated himself directly on the ground, lying flat in complete submission. He did this to express his utmost respect toward me. The dragon is truly magnificent. I beg to offer my loyalty to you. So, it was the dragon tongue. I discovered that this dogman was speaking the dragon language. Your Majesty, the dragon is truly great. Your presence is more magnificent than any other creature. Your Majesty's dignity is truly peerless. I beseech you to accept this humble display of my loyalty. The dogman spoke with deep humility. Very well, I accept your oath of loyalty. I am overjoyed. It is said that the dogmen possess a faint trace of true dragon bloodline, which allows some among them to speak a fragment of the dragon tongue. I never imagined these creatures actually harbored the blood of a true dragon. Furthermore, upon encountering any true dragon, the dogmen will not hesitate to pledge their unwavering allegiance. They are fiercely devoted, for they are born as the natural kin of dragons. Moreover, the dogmen differ from the beasts who know only slaughter and pillaging. They are born with the instincts of master miners. At this moment, the goblin standing by the side spoke up in haste. Great true dragon majesty, I also wish to pledge my loyalty to you. And furthermore, I possess a piece of vital intelligence. Witnessing the lowly dogmen offering their fealty to the true dragon, he felt compelled to do the same. What news do you bring? My burning red eyes fixed upon him. He was not even as large as a single one of my claws. This placed a crushing pressure upon him. The goblin quickly stammered, "Our tribe has discovered an iron ore deposit near the Sunset Forest, but because it lies adjacent to the Beastman tribe's territory, it has yet to be excavated." "A magic iron ore deposit? Are you certain?" Shalong felt his spirits rise. Could it be that the god of fortune truly favors him? Great true dragon majesty. I once served as a slave within human society laboring to extract ore. I have mastered the techniques of excavation and learned to identify various types of minerals. Therefore, I am certain it is a magic iron mine with a significantly rich yield. The goblin struggled to calm his emotions, his expression becoming slightly strained. This wretch dared to keep such information from me. A magic iron vein is among the most coveted resources on this entire continent. Unlike common iron ore, magic iron can be directly infused with enchantments. Its natural hardness is already several times greater than standard iron. Weapons, armor, and all manner of essential gear cannot be forged without magic iron. Very good, goblin. Tell me your name. Realizing that I had found a knowledgeable goblin, my satisfaction grew even greater. These are, after all, individuals of exceptional talent. The goblin lowered his head in fear and spoke. "Great and majestic Dragon King, my name is VCH. Yet deep within he felt immense joy, believing that he had finally altered his destiny. I said with excitement, "In 2 days we shall depart to inspect the iron ore vein." He planned to visit only after the grand feast. Regarding the presence of any beastman tribes in that region, he chose to ignore it. If he were denied the mining of ore, he would be denied the materials. Without materials, the feast could not proceed. And if the feast could not proceed, he would simply wither away. So why concern myself with them? It must be done. With an internal justification through the tireless efforts of the goblins and the dogfolk, more than 5,000 caddies of ore were finally excavated. Sada, following my instructions, led the tribe's warriors to hunt 3 magical beasts. Hunting magical beasts is a perilous undertaking. Sada and his comrades had to mobilize nearly half of the warriors along with the new sorceresses to finally achieve success. Inside the cave, I used earth attribute magic to seal the entrance completely. And after ordering Sada and his comrades not to disturb me, I began the feast. First was the main course, sea demon tears. As expected, once the feast commenced, the aroma was intoxicating. Furthermore, it tasted of salt, carrying the essence of the ocean. I judged the quality of an item based on the fragrance of the feast it provides. The more fragrant the offering, the higher its quality. Next was the silk ore. I devoured over 3,000 caddies, and all 3 magical beasts were consumed, skin and bone alike. After adding a handful of gold coins as seasoning, under my expectant gaze, the feast meter reached 100%. In this instance, I sensed the feast was primarily refining my throat. Could it be a mechanism for spitting projectiles? It did not quite feel like that. I shook my head, silently watching as my body underwent transformation. Finally, as I opened my eyes, the remodeling process of the feast was declared complete. Dragon Bloodline 235, Feast Level 7. Feast cooldown is 5 days. Talent 1, Carnivore, allows for the recovery of vitality and energy by slaying enemies. The amount recovered is determined by the vitality and energy of the fallen foe. Talent 2, Earth Elemental Affinity, grants a powerful aptitude for Earth Attribute Magic. Talent 3, Fire Elemental Affinity, grants a powerful aptitude for Fire Attribute Magic. Talent 4, Armor Piercing, my sharp claws and teeth will inflict additional damage upon enemies. Talent 5, Savage Roar, my roar will by interrupting their spellcasting, I had indeed awakened a new talent, a core ability belonging to the Great Worm. In this world, such a skill is truly divine. It possesses the power to disrupt the flow of incantations. Consider the flight restriction barrier cast by the forest dwarves previously, a spell array that requires the caster to maintain constant focus. A single roar is all it takes to shatter their concentration and collapse the barrier entirely. I have become the natural nemesis of all spellcasters. I wonder, could I also disrupt a warrior gathering their battle chi? The thought tempted me to roar aloud, but I restrained myself, fearing the vibrations might cause the cavern to collapse. I stepped out from the depths of the cave. This time my physical size had not increased significantly, remaining around 10 meters. I scraped my claws against the scales on my chest, instantly drawing a shower of sparks. The density of my scales had clearly increased once again. My entire form was now a pitch black, save for my burning crimson eyes and the subtle rhythmic red pulses at the base of my dragon horns. This was vastly different from the scales of a common black dragon. The scales of a black dragon typically shift toward a dull charcoal gray as they age. This serves as natural camouflage, aiding their survival within the swamps. Much like a newborn white dragon whose scales are as reflective as mirrors, they too fade into a dull, chalky white as they grow. Yet my scales remained an abyss-like, profound black. Sada, bring me a few spellcasters from your tribe. I wish to conduct an experiment. I observed Sada's bewildered expression as he stammered, "Master, your majestic form is truly peerless. Words fail to express the depths of my reverence for you." Sada bowed his head low as he spoke. I chuckled. This creature had certainly learned how to speak with grace. "Your words are pleasing to the ear." Very well, make haste and bring me those spellcasters." For once I allowed myself to be uncharacteristically mild-mannered. After all, such flattery is quite intoxicating. "As you command, my master." Sada hurried away to find the shamans. He could not fathom why his master had undergone such a transformation in a mere half-day. Was this truly the nature of a dragon? Unable to find an answer, he ceased his contemplation. Regardless, he resolved that absolute loyalty would remain his only path forward. with the coordination of several female members of the Wild Ox tribe. Through the coordination of these female Wild Ox tribe members, I have gained a clearer understanding of the Wild Roar. When I activate the Wild Roar, sound waves ripple outward, disrupting all active magical arts. However, the precise range depends entirely on my own physical endurance. Currently, I can utilize the Wild Roar to interrupt the spellcasting of my enemies within a radius of 150 meters. The cost, however, is that my throat requires rest, or I must consume the Predator's gift to recover. Yet, if I limit the range to approximately 50 meters, I can utilize it multiple times in succession. As my cultivation level increases further, this range will gradually expand. I nodded in satisfaction. This ability is truly remarkable. The rest of you, go and recuperate. Observing the exhausted expressions of the 3 female tribe members beside me, they replied, "As you command, Master." The 3 women wiped the sweat from their brows and promptly departed. I instructed Sada to take the captive goblin chieftain to inspect our iron ore mine. The sensation of witnessing one's own strength grow with each passing moment. It is truly magnificent. Sada began to speak, his voice laced with agitation. "Understood, my master. But this is grave news, Chieftain Sada. The beastmen have arrived." At that moment, a warrior rushed over in a panic. He cast a fearful glance toward me before bowing deeply. Upon hearing this, Sada flared with indignation. "What did you say? Those accursed beastmen dare to take the initiative and provoke us? It has always been our Wild Ox tribe that initiates such confrontations. Not only did those beastmen dare to provoke us, but they have even marched to our very doorstep." Sada bowed toward me. "Lord Salong, permit me to go and deal with them first." I granted Sada's request. "Go. Our iron mine lies adjacent to the Beastman tribe. We would have had to contend with them sooner or later. Furthermore, I find myself quite curious about these beastmen." Outside the Wild Ox tribe, hundreds of humanoid creatures stood in grim formation. "Wu, we offer our gratitude to the Iron Hoof tribe for extending your aid to us this time." A girl with feline ears spoke in a clear melodic tone. Wu replied with a boisterous laugh, "There is no need for such formalities. Winnie, we beastmen must stand united as one. Otherwise, sooner or later, we will be oppressed and slaughtered by them." Wu was a minotaur possessing a pair of massive bullhorns atop his head. Ending at the feet are 2 robust bovine hooves, and behind them a cow's tail swishes back and forth. They have arrived. Winnie stares at the thick, roiling black smoke in the distance. "Damnable beastkin, so you have finally found allies to assist you." Sada, the one-eyed, stares intently and says, "This fellow is no ordinary member of the beastkin tribe. This time, we have a real problem on our hands." "Sada, we do not wish to wage war against you. We merely seek a temporary shelter." The cat-eared maiden, Winnie, retorts, "This twilight forest belongs entirely to our forest tribe. Do not think for a moment that you can claim it." Sada does not yield a single step. "Sada, it has been some time. I see you have become a cyclops." The bull-headed leader says, "To a bull, a scar is a badge of glory. I may have lost an eye, but in exchange I have secured the future of my tribe. People like you would never understand." Sada thinks of his own immense stature, speaking with pride. Now that he possesses confidence, his tone has also become significantly more rigid. Had it been the Iron Hoof tribe of the past, he might have compromised if they were allied with the Rose tribe. "Sada, it seems you have already made your preparations." Siyu waves his hand and the warriors of the Iron Hoof tribe surrounding them enter a battle-ready stance. Siyu stands over 2 meters tall. Compared to Sada, he is not the least bit inferior. His massive nostrils exhale 2 thick plumes of white steam. "Do you dare to face me in a duel?" Sada draws a colossal bone staff from behind his back. "With only one eye, how dare you act so arrogant?" Su is not intimidated in the slightest, pulling a double-edged axe from his back. A look of gravity flickers in Sada's eyes. He may appear unbothered by Siu, but in truth, only he knows how difficult this opponent before him is to handle. His strength is by no means inferior to his own, and his defensive capabilities as a bullkin are formidable. Furthermore, the bull-headed tribe possesses a powerful innate talent. It is the Iron Hoof Stomp, capable of dealing massive area of effect damage, which is especially devastating for breaching fortifications and raising camps. This innate talent is truly terrifying in large-scale warfare. In the past, when humans and beastkin engaged in combat, human city walls were essential. Moreover, there are dozens of elite Minotaur warriors stationed here. If they were to charge together with their Iron Hoof Stomp, our infantry would likely hold their ground, but the elderly, women, and children would undoubtedly suffer heavy casualties. That is why he chose to issue a provocation, to force a one-on-one duel. "Sada, you have only one eye remaining. I shall allow you to strike first." Hu declared with confidence, "This is a fate you have brought upon yourself." Sada did not stand on ceremony, exerting his full strength to swing his bone staff towards Siu. Su used his massive axe to intercept Sada's strike with a powerful counterblow. The force of Sada's attack drove back 4 or 5 paces. "Sada, your strength has increased once again." Their combat styles were remarkably similar, resulting in a brutal head-on confrontation. The battle was savage and devoid of vanity. It was nothing more than a collision of raw primal power. After swinging his axe at Sada once more, Su adjusted his footing. It appeared he was finally ready to fight in earnest. Sada did not show weakness, though in his heart he no longer believed victory was possible. Fortunately, he had spent the last few days adapting to fighting with only one eye. Otherwise, he would have been defeated moments ago. Iron Hoof Stomp slammed his right foot violently into the earth. Ripples of force erupted from the ground, surging towards Sada. Sada, well versed in the techniques of the Minotaur tribe, leaped into the air just in time. But Su remained unfazed. Double Iron Hoof Stomp. He slammed his left foot down with equal intensity. Immediately, a shockwave, far more powerful than the first, rippled through the earth and struck Sada the moment his feet touched the ground. Sada was sent flying backward, crashing into the dirt and coughing up a mouthful of blood. Sada, you have lost. Sada said softly, I have indeed been defeated. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Winnie and Sue exchanged a look and smiled. It seems our objective is within reach, yet you still cannot grant us the right to reside in the Sunset Forest. Sada continued, do you intend to go back on your word? The look in Sue's eyes turned dangerous. Just as the atmosphere grew heavy with tension, a deep, resonant voice echoed through the clearing. Because he did not have the authority to decide, a massive shadow suddenly loomed over everyone present. Winnie looked up to see a black dragon of fierce appearance, its wings unfurled, standing tall behind them. Master, you have arrived. Sada struggled to his feet, feeling as though every bone in his body was on the verge of shattering. Indeed, the stomp from the Minotaur's iron-shod hooves was not to be underestimated. Sada dragon, are you worshipping a dragon? Winnie exclaimed in astonishment. Cuck and all the Minotaurs stared at me as if they were facing a formidable enemy. The aura radiating from this black dragon was overwhelmingly powerful. Furthermore, its appearance seemed to differ significantly from what everyone had traditionally described regarding the appearance of black dragons. At this moment, I was staring intensely at Winnie in the distance. Is she a beast tamer or perhaps a catkin? I felt my long-dormant heart begin to stir once more. That perfect physique, those violet blue eyes, hair as long as her waist, soft and flowing like silk, a refined face and two black cat ears atop her head, with a tail swaying rhythmically behind her. Moreover, what truly startled me was that she was adorned in black fishnet attire. This caused an undeniable ripple of agitation within my heart. Seeing this black dragon staring unblinkingly at Winnie from the very beginning, Cook could no longer restrain himself and used his towering frame to shield her. Legend has it that dragons possess an appetite for beautiful maidens. Could this black dragon intend to devour Winnie? I withdrew my gaze, shifting my focus toward the other demi-humans. I am not a dragon so debauched that I have lost my senses, yet the nature of a dragon is inherently lustful. It is certain that the instincts of this evil dragon are influencing me. Black dragon, what is it that you seek? Cuck looked at me as if confronting a mortal threat. Judging by its physical stature, the black dragon before them was an adult, and its strength was not to be trifled with. You invaded my territory and harmed my kin, yet you dare ask what I seek. I looked down at Cuck. Great black dragon, we truly had no intention of trespassing upon another's domain. This was a matter of dire necessity. Winnie stepped out from behind Cuck, but I interjected. I care not for your justifications. The fact remains that you have transgressed against me. I opened my maw wide, revealing my sharp fangs, and unleashed my draconic pressure to its full extent. Instantly, every creature in the vicinity felt an overwhelming sense of oppression. It was a sensation as if a massive boulder were crushing their chests, a feeling of profound discomfort. Black Dragon, are you truly determined to oppose us? We have many warriors gathered here, and you have yet to fully mature. If this battle continues, you will surely perish. Cuck stated that no one would waste their time and effort fighting a black dragon without any hope of gain. I looked at the Minotaur warriors equipped with fine gear behind him. Their strength was indeed impressive. If I were an ordinary young black dragon fighting these men to the death, I might indeed have met my end. But I am no ordinary black dragon. My current strength is far superior to that of any young red dragon. It seems I must teach you all a lesson. I paid no heed to Kook's threats. What a joke. If I were easily intimidated, I would never have grown to this size. If I did not wish to acquire more followers, I would have already slaughtered these men, seized the beastkin girl, and departed. Everyone, prepare to attack. Kook was resolute. Meanwhile, Yuaner's silhouette gradually became translucent before vanishing into thin air. Lord Salong, beware of an ambush. That beastkin girl can blend her body into the surrounding space. Sada loudly warned me, as many warriors from their tribe had been slain in precisely that manner before. I curiously gazed toward the spot where the beastkin girl had just disappeared. A truly impressive concealment technique. Ignoring the situation over there, I began to focus on dealing with the Minotaur warriors before me. Sada, everyone stay back. Let me handle this myself. I held back Sada, who was eager to take action. Such subordinates are not easily replaced. I did not want them to suffer any losses here. Cook hoisted his massive double-bladed axe high and leaped into the air. Faced with such a large target, it would be rude not to strike back, and so I swung my tail and sent Cook flying. Cook let out a miserable shriek as he crashed violently into the ground. Fortunately, a few Minotaur warriors on the ground managed to catch him, sparing him from more severe injuries. Even so, Cook had suffered several broken bones, yet he suppressed the pain and struggled to his feet. Is this the true power of a dragon? Everyone attacked together. Cook did not hesitate for a moment, ordering the warriors utilized their trampling technique. Under the stampede of countless oxmen, waves of shock force rolled toward me. Most critically, a black silhouette suddenly appeared near my neck. It was the Catwoman, Hui. She intended to restrain me to prevent me from taking flight. Instantly, two claw-like weapons manifested in the Catwoman's hands, slashing directly toward my eyes. Is that all there is? I spoke with disappointment. In truth, I could have easily taken flight to evade the Oxmen's attacks. I did not even bother to heed Huini's assault. It was the perfect opportunity to test the durability of my modified scales. A crimson light flashed in my eyes. With a casual shake of my head, Huini was sent flying away. In reality, the defensive capabilities of my ocular region were no less impressive than the scales themselves. My eyelids were more than enough for protection. Furthermore, though the lens of the eye is soft, its hardness rivals that of the scales. Hundi immediately spat out a mouthful of fresh blood and hastily concealed herself. Being a natural-born assassin, I no longer paid heed to this little cat. Regardless of how many cats there might be, they remain harmless creatures before me. Winnie Cook cast a glance at Huini. The others continued their assault, just as they adjusted their formation and charged forward. At that very moment, I slowly opened my mouth to shatter the silence. Instantly, countless jagged spikes erupted from the ground within a 30-meter radius. Furthermore, the ground itself turned soft and mire-like. A powerful force tethered the oxmen, preventing them from making a swift retreat. They were forced to endure the assault of the piercing spikes. Several oxmen were skewered by the spikes until they resembled hedgehogs, losing all signs of life. The scene was truly gruesome. No. Cuck's eyes turned bloodshot. These were all the elites of the Iron Hoof tribe, and they had already lost 7 or 8 men in this single engagement. Dual Iron Hoof Stomp. Cook unleashed his most potent offensive technique, then gripped his great axe and charged forward himself. He missed his mark. I understood clearly. The Iron Hoof Stomp is well suited for sieging cities or clearing out weak foot soldiers. Against me, however, it seemed quite ineffective. I opened my maw wide and unleashed a savage roar. Immediately, whether it was the oxmen or the giants in the vicinity, every warrior felt the magical energy within their bodies surge uncontrollably. It was completely beyond my control. As for Winnie, she was forced to reveal herself from her state of concealment. While she remained in a state of bewilderment, I immediately seized her within my talons. Little cat, I have finally caught you. I brought Winnie before my eyes to observe her closely. How could this be? Winnie could not believe it, for she was a member of the Shadowcat tribe. By channeling the magical energy within her, she could achieve perfection. By hiding within the surrounding space, her heartbeat, scent, and body temperature would all be masked, unless she were to launch an attack. Yet a mere roar from the black dragon before her had rendered the magical energy in her body completely uncontrollable, forcing her out of her invisibility. This creature was truly her natural nemesis. I seized this opportunity to unleash a wide-scale destructive skill, enveloping all the Bullman warriors. This action consumed a significant amount of my magical energy. The Bullman warriors, having just endured the savage roar, had not yet stabilized the magic within their bodies before they were gravely wounded once more, suffering heavy casualties. As for Cook, I pinned him to the ground with a single talon, rendering him unable to move. Evil dragon, release Winnie. Cook spat blood as he looked at me and spoke. While Winnie remained in my grasp, she was merely my spoils of war. I ignored his fury. I am sorry, for it is I who have implicated your tribe. At this moment, Winnie was held in my hand, covered in dust, her face streaked with tears. Sada, imprison all of these captives. I looked at Sada, who stood agape at my side, and said, As you command, my master, your divine might has shaken me to my core. Sada spoke with a look of fervor, to which I replied, very well, be off with you. I turned and remarked, I am already eager to examine the beast-eared girl in my grasp. I spread my wings and took flight, reaching the entrance of my cavern in short order. Carrying the desperate Winnie, I entered the cave and set her down. Great Black Dragon, I implore you to release Cook and the others. It was all my fault. No sooner was she set down than Winnie stood up, though she had just been held within my palm. She felt as though her entire body were falling apart. Yet because I did not immediately devour her or end her life, then there is still a chance for things to change. Looking at Winnie with a pitiful expression, I stated plainly that I would not let them go. Then what is it that you desire? Winnie asked softly. I want you to become my subjects and serve me. I did not hide my intentions in the slightest. Respected Black Dragon, I can allow the Rose tribe to join your ranks, but Jew and the others are of the Minotaur race, and their nature is incredibly stubborn. Winnie stammered as she spoke. In this world, the strong are respected, and I have already proven my strength. So compared to death, she would rather submit. But you are so weak. How can you decide the future of your tribe? I looked at the beast-eared girl, to which she replied, In truth, I am not weak. Winnie said, feeling frustrated. Her talent within the tribe is top tier. That assassin's aptitude has made her the most fearsome killer among them. Thus, after the previous chieftain passed away unexpectedly, she temporarily assumed the position of leader, yet she never imagined that I would be her natural counter. Her stealth proved ineffective, and her innate skill was shattered by a single roar. I had not expected her to harbor so many hidden anxieties. In reality, I highly value those minotaurs. These creatures were originally nothing more than cattle. In my past life, I was most fond of braised beef. I chuckled softly. Braised beef is indeed delicious. Lord Black Dragon, I beg you, do not eat them. I will do my utmost to persuade Jew. Upon hearing me say this, Winnie was instantly terrified out of her wits, collapsing to her knees as the thought of Jew and the others being devoured one by one filled her with dread. The chromatic dragon is indeed the most terrifying of all. Seeing her in such a state, I found it quite amusing. As for these humanoid creatures, I actually have no appetite for them. After all, I was human in my previous life, and just as some people in that life would feel nauseated at the thought of eating monkeys or similar, unless the moment arrives where I am forced to feed, I remained lying down, keeping my gaze fixed upon Winnie. Call me Lord Salong. I might just grant you this opportunity. Thank you, Lord Salong. Winnie felt the heat radiating over her, not daring to even lift her head. Then take me to your tribe tomorrow. I wish to see the other beastkin. Lord Salong, the current situation of our tribe is in truth dire. Through Winnie's explanation, I finally understood why the Beastkin tribe and the Forest Ogre tribe had previously maintained a mutual peace, yet they had to consider encroaching upon the Twilight Forest. According to Winnie, the land where their Beastkin tribe resided was once a place of picturesque beauty, where prey was incredibly abundant. However, half a year ago, suddenly, from the heavens, several shooting stars descended upon the mountain range. The Beastkin tribe had attempted to investigate this phenomenon. In their tribal records, these were identified as falling meteorites, potentially containing rare and precious materials. Thus, they dispatched several warriors to investigate. But those warriors, before even reaching the impact site, began to vomit incessantly as if struck by a plague. Furthermore, their skin began to show signs of severe ulceration. After returning, they succumbed to their agony amidst screams of pain. The tribe's healers could not determine the cause, knowing only that their bodily tissues had necrotized due to some unknown toxin. Seeing this, Winnie sent no more scouts. Initially, she believed the matter would conclude there, but unexpectedly, after some time, the fierce beasts surrounding the tribe began to vanish or flee. This plunged the Beastkin tribe into a state of famine. Seeing that their meat supplies were dwindling, Winnie instructed the tribe to gather vegetation to stave off their hunger. She had hoped that with time things would stabilize. Yet to her shock, a month later the surrounding vegetation began to wither one by one. Moreover, some members of the tribe even began to suffer from the same ulcerous skin conditions, accompanied by symptoms such as the shedding of fur, mirroring the exact afflictions of the previous warriors. Fearing their tribe would be extinguished before they could even uncover the truth, they were forced to seek a new land of survival in the Twilight Forest. As I listened to her tale, it struck me that this sounded remarkably like a viral contagion. While a meteorite might carry unknown substances that could spawn strange viruses upon impact, the fact that it causes vegetation to wither is peculiar indeed. There is no use dwelling on it, but my magical iron ore mine remains in that location. This situation will not be easily resolved. Very well, I shall go and inspect the site myself. Given my physical constitution, surely I would not succumb to a mere virus. Very well, I shall go and see for myself. With my constitution, it should be of no consequence. Could a mere virus truly bring about my end? Why must we head to the Twilight Forest? I asked out of curiosity. To the south lies the territory of the Beastkin Empire. To the east is a powerful human city-state, and since the fallout of that meteorite is so vast, we had no choice but to come here. Winnie replied with honesty. The Beastkin Empire. Why do you not seek refuge within the Beastkin Empire? Winnie hesitated for a moment because we are the descendants of disgraced criminals. To return, there is to court death. It turned out that decades ago, a political upheaval occurred within the Beastkin Empire, which ultimately ended in failure. Many of the core figures of that faction were utterly eradicated. Winnie and her kin are the remnants of those people. Originally, they were meant to be purged as well, but for reasons unknown, certain members of the Empire deliberately spared these weaker individuals. Consequently, after fleeing, they established a tribe of their own. As the group consists primarily of the elderly, women, and children, they named it the Rose Tribe, though outsiders continue to label them as a Beastkin tribe. It sounded like the usual weary tale of a power struggle. I find the obsession with seizing power to be utter folly. This is a world of the supernatural, where individual strength is paramount. To me, subordinates are merely tools to facilitate my growth. Otherwise, why would I waste the time to recruit them? To some true dragons, subordinates serve many purposes. They can be used to display one's prestige, deployed to fight battles, or even consumed as sustenance when the need arises. In that case, I shall visit your tribe tomorrow to assess the situation. I said, that reminds me, the black hosiery, or rather this black silk garment you are wearing. Did you craft it yourself? I asked suddenly. This is a dark silk membrane, woven from a rare magical plant. It can support the transmission of magic across the surface of the body, and it can extend the duration of my innate skills. Winnie explained, black membrane silk, let's just call it hacker from now on. I extended a claw and gently hooked the strand of black membrane silk on Winnie's arm. However, my claw was far too large compared to Winnie's body, and the result was an immediate tear. I looked at the black silk on the ground, momentarily speechless. This is far too fragile. The air grew slightly still. Winnie instinctively touched the torn area, though it was, after all, named black membrane silk. Winnie spoke in a soft voice, justifying herself. She didn't quite understand why the name had to be changed. Having heard my words, I made the decision directly. Winnie nodded her small head. I looked at Winnie's demeanor, feeling somewhat helpless. Engaging in romantic affairs was out of the question for now. In terms of age, I should still be a dragon hatchling. But judging by my physical size, I should be considered an adolescent dragon. Generally, adolescent dragons are already capable of using transformation magic to assume a humanoid form, such as that of a human or a half-dragon spirit. Most dragons, except when absolutely necessary, dislike transforming into humanoids because a true dragon can only unleash its full potential in its original form. If one transforms into a human shape, their power is significantly restricted. Throughout history, there has been no shortage of cases where dragons transformed into humanoid shapes and were caught off guard by opponents, yet there are some true dragons that favor transforming into humanoid creatures like humans. For example, the silver dragons among the metallic dragon clan. Some silver dragons can live in human form within human cities for over a decade. In the process, they even form unions with those they cherish. When their life partner passes away, they eventually depart. Winnie, from now on, you shall be my handmaiden. I said suddenly. A girl with such talent should not be squandered. A handmaiden? Winnie's eyes widened in surprise. Why? Are you unwilling? I looked at Winnie. I agree. Winnie let out a sigh of relief. She had long since heard that the five-colored dragon was mercurial, with a temperament that shifted like the winds. Now she had truly experienced it for herself. Very well, prepare a few sets of clothing to serve as your maid's uniform. Now come here and help me clean my scales. I continued to lie prone upon the ground. Winnie stood dazed for a moment before she collected herself, retrieving a large stone basin from the corner, pouring some spring water from within the cave into it, and then carrying the stone basin to my side to begin the cleaning. I sensed it for a moment and felt that something was amiss. Retract your tiny cat claws. Were they not quite formidable when you were scratching earlier? As you command. Winnie's face flushed red. She rubbed her hands together, and from each, 3 cat-like claws emerged as she began to scrub. Not bad, I nodded in satisfaction. It felt quite like having an itch scratched. A beast-eared girl is indeed comfortable to have around. Just as I was enjoying the sensation, Sada rushed in hurriedly. Lord Salong, that person from the rabbit tribe, keeps clamoring to see you. My lord, what are you doing? Sada asked, looking slightly suspicious. Why is that half-beast with her claws unsheathed lying across Lord Salong's back? Pay it no mind. She is merely helping me clean my scales, I said, opening my eyes. Lord Salong, shall I arrange for the women of the orc tribe to assist you? Their strength and speed are surely far superior to hers. As Sada spoke, I envisioned those orc women, with their broad shoulders, thick waists, and yellowed teeth, and felt an immediate wave of revulsion. Let them assist you instead. I replied indifferently, very well. Sada scratched his head. The female orcs of the tribe were considered quite attractive. Why does Lord Salong not find them appealing? Is it not said that the true dragon can discover beauty in every race? Bring that person up here, I said, recalling the words Sada had just spoken. As you command. Under the escort of 4 orc warriors, the rabbit folk was brought before me. Thick, heavy chains bound both his hands and his feet. These chains served to sever the flow of magical energy throughout his body. Movement had become a grueling struggle. Lord Black Dragon, we have offended you this time, but Winnie is a virtuous girl. I beg of you, do not harm her. Upon seeing me, Cook spoke immediately. She is already mine. I shall do her no harm. I replied with an amused tone. What have you done to her? Cuck suddenly caught sight of a scrap of black fabric on the ground, realizing it was a piece of Winnie's clothing. Brother Cuck, I am unharmed. At that moment, Winnie peeked her head out from behind me. She wiped the sweat from her face and walked happily toward Cook. As long as you are safe, that is all that matters. Cuck let out a sigh of relief upon seeing Winnie in such a state. Brother Cook, I have decided that our Rose tribe shall become subordinates to Lord Salong, Winnie stated with absolute seriousness. What? He is nothing but an evil dragon, Cuck exclaimed, filled with anxiety. How could a girl as pure as Winnie serve under a vile, wicked dragon? No sooner had Cuck finished his sentence than Sada delivered a powerful blow, sending him crashing to the ground. You dare speak of the master with such insolence? Sada spoke with an emotionless expression as bright red blood trickled from the corner of Cuck's mouth. Winnie moved to help Cuck up, but I blocked her path with my claw. As expected of a Taran, Sada told the Taran warriors, including this one, to assemble. They are all to go to the mines. Their daily workload shall be 10 times that of the goblins and the dogfolk. If they fail to complete their task, they shall receive no food, and what rations they do get will be far worse than those of the goblins. Tell them this is the price for Cook's arrogance. I stated coldly, as you command. Sada grabbed Cuck by his horns and dragged him away. Master, I beg of you. As soon as Sada left, Winnie knelt before me. She even changed how she addressed me, calling me master. This is the price they must pay. Prepare yourself. Tomorrow we shall depart for your tribe. I cast a glance at her, then closed my eyes. Winnie's sobbing drifted slowly from the side, but I paid her no further mind. I used my claws to secure Winnie as we soared rapidly through the sky. Winnie, how much longer until we reach your tribe? I asked, my voice resonating. We are almost there. Winnie gazed at the surrounding scenery with curiosity. This was her first time soaring at such a great height. Even while being held in this manner, she understood that true dragons rarely permit anyone to sit upon their backs. For any creature, the back is a forbidden zone, because if someone were to harbor ill intent, it would be all too easy to strike. I suddenly came to a halt, descending toward a towering cliffside to rest. Lord Salong, is something the matter? Winnie asked, her voice laced with suspicion. There are humans ahead. Salong explained, for the sensory perception and vision of a true dragon are superior to all other living beings. What Hai could not detect I had seen long ago. Moments later, a caravan of humans appeared within my field of vision. The situation appears dire. I observed the human caravan. It was laden with cages forged from metal. Inside were confined many humanoid creatures bearing animal ears and tails. Misa and Layla Osono, Salong, they are members of my tribe. Winnie spoke in a panic. Winnie, do not tense up, I said, looking down at the heavily guarded caravan below. This appears to be a human slave hunting expedition. Winnie struggled to calm herself. Lord Salong, I beg you to help me rescue them. In the past, when they possessed great strength, humans would occasionally come to harass them, but they never succeeded. Yet this time, it just so happened that Winnie was away, which provided the humans with the perfect opportunity to strike. Demi-humans are highly sought-after commodities within human cities. Both the rabbitkin and catkin girls are considered prized acquisitions. Having long viewed these demi-humans as my own personal subjects, a surge of fury rose within me, to think that these wretches had captured so many beautiful demi-human girls. Winnie, these humans possess considerable strength. We must wait for an opportune moment. My crimson eyes remained fixed on the scene below. Lato, with as many demi-humans as we have captured this time, we are certain to secure a handsome profit. A silver-armored knight with black hair, a great sword strapped to his back, spoke with a laugh to a battle-axe-wielding warrior beside him. You don't say? Furthermore, there are several exquisite specimens among this lot. The warrior with the battle-axe peered into the iron cages at the rear, speaking to the trembling demi-human women. Normally, merchandise of this quality can only be found in the Beast Kingdom's capital. Who would have expected such a bounty to be gathered in this wretched place? Indeed, though we have suffered significant losses in manpower, these creatures are remarkably difficult to handle. The two of them continued their idle banter. Sister Misa, I do not want to be sold. A demi-human girl with brown raccoon ears clung to the arm of the rabbitkin girl, trembling with fear. Their limbs were all shackled by heavy iron chains. Layla, do not be afraid, Sister Winnie will come to rescue us. The rabbitkin girl possessed ruby-like eyes that appeared remarkably vivid. While she appeared composed on the surface, deep within her eyes lay hidden anxiety. I will launch a frontal assault in a moment. Use your innate ability to circle around behind them and seize the opportunity to eliminate the caravan guards. Can you do it? I glanced down at Winnie, originally intending to wait until nightfall to strike, but judging by their pace, I feared they would emerge from the forest long before then. That will not be a problem. Winnie extended 3 razor-sharp claws from each hand, her eyes filled with killing intent. I said nothing more, leaping into the air toward the caravan, utilizing the dense canopy of the forest to reach the highest branches. This primeval forest was filled with ancient trees towering over 100 meters, providing perfect concealment. Watching the 2 warriors leading the caravan, I knew they were the primary force guarding the captives. As the 2 warriors continued their relaxed conversation, I activated the Shatter skill. Who goes there? Instantly, countless jagged spikes erupted from the ground. Both reacted with lightning speed, leaping high into the air. However, this was exactly as I had intended. I unleashed a spray of acid, observing as the man attempted to shroud his body in battle aura. Just as he sought to defend himself, a roar of a dragon echoed through the air. Both men felt their internal battle aura spiral into chaos, leaving them unable to control their strength for a crucial moment. But it was already too late. The acid immediately began to corrode the great sword warrior's body. The upper half of his torso was nearly melted beyond recognition. His physique, inherently stronger than that of an average warrior, only served to prolong his agonizing suffering. The Gretax warrior beside him utilized the broad face of his weapon to shield himself from the acid. Black Dragon, save me. The great sword warrior knew he would not survive, yet he clung to life, desperately reaching out toward the Gretaxi warrior. But I would grant them no such mercy. I opened my maw and lunged downward. The great sword warrior watched with wide eyes as his body was severed in 2 by my jaws. My teeth, bolstered by the armor-piercing effect, sliced through him with ease. Both his expensive armor and his hardened physique offered no resistance. In an instant, his world descended into eternal darkness. In those final moments, he was spared from the worst of the agony. Lasu, the Gretaxi warrior, stared at me with a mixture of shock and fury. Why would a black dragon appear in this place? And why such a bizarre and monstrous black dragon at that? A Tier 8 warrior had been obliterated in the blink of an eye. Hurry, close the distance and strike. Mage, control its movements. The other warriors in the caravan immediately surged forward to surround me. Under the command of the Gretaxi warrior, they launched a desperate assault. I paid these minor combatants no mind. Their piercing power was insufficient to scratch the scales protecting my hide. This engagement had proceeded far more smoothly than I had initially imagined. Of the 2 Tier 8 warriors, one was already dead, and the other was so shattered by fear that he could only send common soldiers to their deaths. Several thick, robust vines whipped toward me. It was the wood element mage from the slave-hunting party mounting an attack. Tracing the fluctuations of magic power, I locked my gaze onto a tall, gaunt man. Just as I prepared to charge and finish him off, the air beside the wood element mage began to ripple. A piercing whistle tore through the air, and 3 fatal claw marks appeared upon the throat of the wood element mage. No, damn it. Latu never expected a sneak attack, and the one who had struck him down was the cat girl, Winnie. Everyone, do not panic. It is merely a juvenile black dragon. With so many warriors here, we can certainly defeat it. Today shall be the day we become legends. Think of it, we will be remembered as dragon slayers. As Latu shouted, the other warriors snapped out of their chaotic daze. Indeed, this black dragon is not large, we can slay it, we shall all be dragon slayers. But the moment the warriors charged, Latu hurled his massive axe toward me and fled without ever looking back. He knew better, this was clearly a mutated black dragon. With such a robust physique, blood-red eyes, and the recent slaughter of a Tier 8 warrior, how could he stand a chance? How could someone with his meager strength possibly hope to defeat it? He could only hope those warriors would buy him enough time to escape. I watched the fleeing man, momentarily speechless. He had spoken with such bravado that I truly thought I had encountered a formidable captain of the mercenary guild. The captain has abandoned us, he has left us all to die. I descended from the sky, slamming into the earth. Gazing upon these warriors, I activated my earth rupture once more. Countless stone spikes erupted from the ground. These warriors lacked the reflexes and power of Latu. Amidst their agonizing screams, their bodies were pierced through. I felt not a shred of pity for them. These slave traders were in truth no different from common bandits. Their captives were not merely of the demi-human races. Other humans were also their prey. They would often massacre entire villages for plunder, and so I charged forward once more. My sharp claws and fangs were the most terrifying weapons at my disposal. My aura was released without restraint. These warriors, already terrified, no longer possessed the will to resist. Before long, aside from the demi-humans in the cages, there was not a single living soul left at the scene. I glanced in the direction of Latu's flight, took one final look at Winnie, and gave chase. I would not allow that man to escape. If he did, he would undoubtedly become a future disaster. He would not be able to evade his fate. As the iron cages were opened one by one, a young girl with snow-white hair and long, pristine rabbit ears stepped forward with elegant, slender strides. She whose eyes, a striking crimson, welled with tears as she embraced Hai, whispering that everyone had endured enough suffering. Heine gently stroked the long, soft ears of the girl. Chi-Hu, we must depart from this place at once. The memory of the black dragon still haunted the demi-humans who had just escaped, leaving them gripped by terror. Gathering around Winnie, they saw a mangled corpse cast upon the ground. It was none other than the warrior Lat, who had attempted to flee moments before. I spread my wings and descended to the earth, taking a few measured steps forward. This place is filled with many beautiful beast-eared maidens, especially that rabbit girl. She is quite simply a peerless treasure. Her snow-white hair and matching ears are truly exquisite. Coupled with those crimson eyes, her allure is profound. I could see that these individuals possessed great potential. Merely looking upon them provided a sense of satisfaction. If they were trained properly and taught the dances of my previous life, would they not be unrivaled on any live-streaming platform? Sa Long, he has returned. Chaos erupted instantly, and the nerves of every demi-human present grew taut with fear. The sight of the black dragon's recent slaughter was deeply etched into their hearts. Lord Sa Long, please, pay them no mind. Winnie bowed to me first, and I offered a casual wave of my dragon claw. Toward these beast-eared maidens, I remain remarkably magnanimous. Standing atop a massive tree, NY raised her voice, soothing the frayed emotions of the crowd. This is Lord Sa Long, a true dragon of immense power. I have pledged my loyalty to serve Lord Sa Long. Should anyone wish to decline, I shall provide them with enough resources to leave the Rose Tribe safely. Winnie declared in a loud, clear voice. The crowd below exchanged uneasy glances. Everyone was well aware of the dire state of their tribe. Without the protection of a formidable expert in this forest, they faced the constant threat of total annihilation. Hai spoke with grave seriousness. Observing her demeanor, I felt she truly possessed the qualities of a leader. Winnie was not wrong. At this moment, we have no other options. Relying on the strong is the most prudent path. Just then, a female demi-human with black hair and gray ears stepped forward to speak. I examined her carefully. It turned out to be a young wolf girl. I too am willing to follow Sister Winnie forever. Misa watched with curiosity, then stepped forward as well. We are also willing. I nodded inwardly. It appears that Winnie commands great respect here. Winnie Sada will dispatch people here shortly. You may lead your kin to them. Take temporary shelter at the Sunset Ridge. Now tell me the location of the falling star from before. I spoke temporarily, setting aside the other demi-humans. Lord Sa Long, the terrain there is quite complex. Perhaps I should lead you there myself. Winnie hesitated for a moment before speaking, but before I could answer, the young girl from earlier stood up. Sister Winnie, why don't I lead Lord Sa Long there instead? Everyone needs Sister Misa right now, and that place is extremely dangerous. Do not forget that I am the most skilled healer in our tribe. I shall ensure my own safety, Misa said with a sweet smile. She is the only one who truly understands just how treacherous that place is. Sister Hu, rest assured, with Lord Sa Long accompanying me, no harm will come to me. Misa smiled sweetly at me, her rabbit ears twitching slightly. Winnie, you go to your tribe first, I said, ultimately deciding to bring the girl along. The deeper we flew into the region, the more desolate it became, with withered trees and the remains of beasts